Massive shortage of petroleum products. Juma is expected, among other things, to shed light on what might have occasioned the current situation, even as reports indicate that some oil marketing companies might be guilty of hoarding the much sought after commodity. Meanwhile, the government has cracked the whip on oil marketers accused of economic sabotage by exporting fuel meant for the local market. The first on the firing line is Ruby's Chief Executive Officer, Jean-Christian Bajeron, who was deported to France. Kenya has experienced a major fuel shortage in the past 2 weeks in what the government blamed on oil marketers who export fuel meant for the local market. And the National Assembly Leader of Minority, John Mbadi, has accused a section of politicians of peddling lies about the proposed tax measures to fund the next financial and fiscal year. Mbadi says politicians opposed to the handshake are playing populist politics with the tax proposals in the Finance Bill 2022 that are still being processed. These coming days after the United Democratic Alliance Party pledged to rally its troops in Parliament to oppose the Finance Bill 2022, consequently shooting down proposals in the 2022-2023 budget. The leader of minority in the National Assembly, John Mbadi, has faulted the move, claiming those opposed to the bill are being dishonest and are seeking to thrive in populist politics. And United Democratic Alliance registered members are today set to participate in the party's nomination exercise that has been dubbed a mini-election. The party's National Elections Board chairperson, Anthony Moura, disclosed that the exercise will be conducted in 36 counties in 15,000 polling stations across the country. The voting exercise begins at 6 a.m. and concludes at 5 p.m., paving way for the vote counting exercise. Party members will be voting for candidates in 981 electoral seats which are up for grabs. According to Moura, 13 counties will nominate their governor, while 18 counties will be identifying their Senate candidates. Now, the High Court has nullified a requirement that members of Parliament must have a university degree. Justice Anthony Mrima termed the requirement unconstitutional as there was no adequate public participation. He was ruling on a petition by voters Paul Macharia Wambui, Joseph Karanja Mushai and David Kimani Njenga. The ruling that comes in the wake of the ongoing political parties' primaries offers a big relief to political aspirants who do not have the academic qualifications. In July 2021, the Senate Committee on Justice, Legal and Human Rights, chaired by Nyamira Senator Okoh, held a virtual meeting to deliberate on 2 draft elections amendments bill 2021 sponsored by Senators Kipchumba Murkomen of Elgeyo Marakwet and his Narok counterpart Ledama Olekina. Now, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and his Principal Secretary Dr. Karanj Kibisho have said they aren't bothered by criticism directed at them by a section of political leaders. The duo, which has come under repeated attacks by critics for allegedly directing selective harassment of government opponents, said they were being targeted for discharging their official duties. Addressing the National Delegates Conference of Chiefs at Caritas, Nyeri County, they said they had no apologies to make for their perceived high-handedness in enforcing law and order. To feel good story, and former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has paid 100,000 shillings fine for a man who was jailed for shoplifting in a supermarket. Sonko paid the fine for Alvin Linus Chivondo, who had been sentenced after pleading guilty to stealing cooking oil. The former Nairobi governor also promised Chivondo a monthly stock of food in addition to a job. During the sentencing, the prosecution counsel submitted that the suspect visited the supermarket hall posing like a customer on April 10, 2022. The 22-year-old is said to have proceeded to pick items from the shelves and placing them in a shopping basket. Now, the East African community will support its newest member, the Democratic Republic of Congo, to find a way out of the insecurity challenges. EAC Secretary General Dr. Peter Mathuki, speaking just days after DRC joined the bloc, Mathuki disclosed that the region's member states will mobilize resources and develop infrastructure to address insecurity issues that are affecting the country. To realize this, he said the regional bloc will be working together with the development partners to develop the infrastructure, a major enabler to economic development. While responding to questions during a conversation on Jumuiya Spaces on Twitter, Dr. Mathuki called on all citizens of the EAC trading bloc, which has since expanded, to give focus to issues that will steer mutual development in the region. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country, and I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Number Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, so let me tell you what's happening. It's if you're on a road and there's a petrol station along that road, which happens to be very many roads, there's likely to be some traffic snarl up if that petrol station has fuel. So we're already seeing that happening along some areas in the morning, and Jogoo Road is getting very busy already. We can see Outer Ring Road is also busy at the usual stages, Stadium Pier railway stop. But the other roads are not looking so bad. Thika Road is good, Mombasa Road is good, Langata Road rather is good, Ngong Road is good, Kiambu Road is good so far. Let's see how they'll be looking like in about half an hour. Kenya's biggest conversation begins shortly.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your
day. Good morning, 9 minutes after 6. How are you doing? It's the 14th day of March 2022. Kenya's biggest conversation begins now. Happy, what do they call it? Monday, Thursday.
See, I thought that was yesterday.
Today it's Monday, Thursday.
Today is Monday? Okay. It's Monday, Thursday.
It's Monday, Thursday.
Okay.
This is the one.
She is the one.
Yes. How you doing, City?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. Yes.
Ndu has decided to travel for Easter.
It is a good thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Easter is for traveling.
As we speak, she's at Bola International.
Yes.
Sleeping, waiting for flight to take her to Western Africa.
Yes.
Imagine.
Bueno. Isn't technology a wonderful thing?
Yes.
Because ordinarily, she was going by donkey, she'd be in Naivasha.
She'd be having some porters carrying her stuff.
Yeah, and she'd be in Naivasha.
She'd just be down the road.
Yes, not too far away from here.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you, though?
I am actually well. It rained in my neck of the woods.
When?
Today.
At night?
Yeah. Early this morning. It started raining around 4.
Yeah.
It was pits and parts. Then at around 4:45, it rained nicely.
Properly.
Then stopped. Then as I was getting out of the house, it rained again. So I went back and got myself something that can shield me from the rain. Then it stopped.
So as you're walking out again, there was no rain.
It was drizzling, then it stopped completely. Then, to my shock and horror, as I was traveling this direction, I realized there was no rain at all. It didn't rain at all in this.
There was not a single drop.
Not a Baba. The only drop that equaled that lack of drop was lack of fuel. Hakuna fuel drop.
Okay. So today is just like yesterday. Fuel and fuel issues, and we'll be discussing that in greater detail as we look at the newspaper headlines. We have conversations throughout the show looking at what exactly is happening in the country. We can tell you that the acting cabinet secretary for petroleum and mining, who is the cabinet secretary for energy, Ambassador Monica Juma, will be speaking at 9 a.m. She said, I want to address this issue. So we'll wait to hear. Today is the 14th. You know normally what happens on the 14th with IPRA.
What happens is that we are told fuel prices are going up.
Yes.
That's what normally happens.
So you can imagine the kind of chaos that will be there at the petrol stations today as people try to fuel today.
They're already trying to fuel today. The queues, my friend, started very early.
Yeah.
And you see, you actually get caught in a jam at 5 in the morning and you're wondering, where's the jam? Then you realize every jam you see in this city is next to a petrol station.
Yeah.
Yes. So if it's a single lane street, you cannot move.
It's becoming a very big issue, this one.
It is a big issue.
It's a big one.
And when you travel by Uber, Uber prices have also hiked.
Yeah.
They've gone up by some 150 shillings. And it's because of demand. There are more people using Ubers than there are Ubers. And the app normally just hikes. If there's more demand, the price goes up.
It goes up.
Yes.
It is crazy, though.
No, it is absolutely crazy.
It is. It is crazy. I mean,
but what makes it genuinely crazy is that, remember yesterday we were looking at the news.
Yeah.
Pipeline has fuel in storage for 3 weeks. So, going by that alone, we don't have a fuel shortage. Yes. The fuel shortage in the pumps is fuel shortage that is contrived.
Yes.
Yes. So when we keep hearing and we keep being told that there's a fuel shortage, we are not being told the truth. It is not true. We do not have a fuel shortage. There is no fuel in the pumps, and that is what needs to be explained. Why?
Why is there no fuel in the pumps?
Yes.
Yeah. Who's behind it?
And I think we are already being given directions as to how we ought to look at it. Because we can see, but we'll just look at it later when we look at the news. There are people already exiting the country, ostensibly. The exit is related to the fuel crisis that we have.
Yeah. They're the ones to blame.
Of course, they're the ones to blame, according to these sources.
Yeah, that's what we're being told. These are the ones to blame.
Yep.
So the conversation that we'll be having this morning at 8 o'clock, let's look at the issue of power. So power, cost of energy, whether it's petroleum or electricity. A longer wait for the electricity cost reduction is what Isaac Nereva, who's an electricity billing analyst, will be telling us this morning. Remember, we are saying we are not yet in April because end of March is when we expect to see a reduction in cost of power, which has not happened. So we are not going to move over into April until that happens. And the CS for Energy will be speaking today. I'm sure she'll be asked those questions and she'll tell us. She'll be responding to that. So 8 o'clock, that's a conversation. Today is Thursday, so Justice Thursdays. We'll be having the Registrar and Head of the Tribunal Secretariat, Anne Asuga. Tribunals as an avenue to expand the doorways to justice. And you know there are very many tribunals. There is the Election Dispute Tribunal. There is the Tax Dispute Tribunal. There are so many tribunals. What is the importance of all these tribunals? What do they do? So, for example, did you know there was an Education Appeals Tribunal?
No, I didn't.
Did you know there's an HIV and AIDS Tribunal?
Yes, I do.
Of course, you've worked it. So what do they do? HIV and AIDS Tribunal.
What happens is that if, say, for instance, somebody goes for a rapid test and the test indicates that you're HIV positive, and upon doing consecutive tests thereafter, what they call tiebreakers and so forth, you find you're negative. And yet, you've been on ARVs for the longest time. You may feel aggrieved that they have caused you mental and spiritual stress.
Yes.
That tribunal is where you go to sort out such matters.
Why not just sue the government?
The government is not the one who did the testing. You may need to sue the hospital.
Or whoever did that, yeah.
You could do that. But The tribunal is useful because it is populated by people who actually understand the where-to-falls of HIV care and treatment.
And it's then faster.
It's faster, and they're people who understand the dynamics of that, and they'll be able to point out where the problem may have arisen.
Okay.
Yes. You go to a court of law, they're going to have to call experts, and these are the same experts they're going to have to call.
There's a business premises rent tribunal.
That I've heard of.
There's a rent restriction tribunal.
That I've heard of. There
There's
used to be
a
one
sports
thing, by the way.
dispute tribunal.
There's a what?
Sports disputes tribunal.
That I didn't know.
There's a let me look for one that I'm sure you may not have heard of. National Civil Aviation Administrative Review Tribunal.
No, I have not heard of it.
Yeah, so she'll tell us. The registrar in charge of all these tribunals will come and tell us. So what are these tribunals? How are they established? What do they do? That is a conversation we'll be having at 7 a.m. Quickly, COVID in numbers. In the country, as of yesterday, 0 deaths, new reported deaths, 5 new cases of COVID, dropping the positivity rate from 1% back down to 0.2%. And that's a good thing. No new death reported, no new recovery as well reported. But it's just 5 new cases, many of them mild, 4 of them in Uasin Gishu, 1 in Nairobi. We're doing not so badly, and we continue to be grateful, but also cautious as we continue with this. It's 17 minutes after 6. We are online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. Are you? If you are, then say hello to us. We'll be doing a road call shortly after we take a look at the weather forecasts.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
Okay, so we know that there's some parts of Nairobi that have already drizzled, experienced some showers. It's going to be a partly cloudy day in Nairobi, highs of 26 and lows of 16. It's raining at the coast. Mombasa, rain showers today at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25. Malindi, light rains at 32 and lows of 27. Nyeri, light rain at 25 and lows of 15. Kisumu gonna be mostly clear at highs of 30 and lows of 20. In Kakamega, clear skies at 27. Nakuru, clear skies at 16. So let's see. In Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, rain showers at 30. In Kampala, Uganda, mostly clear skies at 26. Johannesburg, South Africa, clear skies at 21. Kinshasa, DRC, clear skies at 33. Lagos, Nigeria, clear skies at 32. London is going to be... where is London here now? Where did it go? Clear skies at 20. New York, clear skies at 20. And Paris, France, mostly clear skies at 21.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, 20 minutes after 6. So there are people who are online, and we want to see who exactly is online and say hello to them. Are you ready, City? Okay. So somebody who says good morning to you is McDonald Makanga says Kabiria Kinuthia Center, well represented.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Andrew Franklin says, Happy Easter to Ndu Okoh, who apparently had enough of manufactured chaos. That's a fuel shortage and threats of mass disconnections of non-compliant SIM subscribers, has decided to leave the country. Kaeni na hizo simu zenu, kaeni na mafuta, I'm gone. Yes, Andrew, I think that's what she's done. Robert Bogo, good morning. Mombasa is tuned in. MCI, James Muli Kimanzi, morning, guys. Streaming in from Mwingi East this morning, and that's a very good thing. Lilian Ondege, good morning. Odenge, rather, good morning, the number 1 radio station. Asante sana, Andrew Chamoiwa, good morning. Spicing it with spicy spices. Agaba Arnold Agan, good morning. Odero Jr., good morning from the Great Wall of Kino. Tulinawe Nelson Yang, good morning, my favorite. I'm tuned in from Kisoro. Greetings to Kasaram Pefu. Wow. Okay. Johnson Smith Quant, good morning, tuned in from Kericho. Chalima, good morning, tuned in from Kakamega. And also we're seeing other people as well. McDonald has said good morning. Yes, we've already said that. And Dr. M. Jessa says good morning. Kolanya Atapara Teso is locked. Everybody who's online now, very good morning to you. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. CT has the day's proverb. It is not from Liberia.
It is from Gabon.
Okay.
All right. Gabon. When the bee comes to your house, let her drink beer. You may want to visit the bee in their house one day.
When the bee comes to your house, let her drink beer.
Let her drink beer.
You may want to visit her.
One day.
And you want the same hospitality extended to you.
You may want the same hospitality.
Okay. When a visitor comes, it doesn't matter whether the visitor is those annoying visitors.
Buzzing all over the place.
Buzzing all over.
Threatening to sting you.
Yeah.
No.
Be nice and kind.
Be nice and kind.
You may need their kindness.
You may need to visit them.
That's a nice one. It's the Gabonese.
It's Gabonese.
So tell us about the Gabonese.
Well, it's a small country.
Yeah.
It's nestled somewhere in the middle of... It's got right between what you may call West and Central Africa. Just right there. Okay? It has a population of something close to 2.45 million. Okay? The official language is French.
So the population of the entire country is like the population of what? Eastlands?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And the president is called Mr. Ali Bongo Odimba. Okay. Now, one of the things that is unique about that particular area, I was thinking about looking at proverbs from Central African Republic, and I remember this republic was once an empire. Because they had an emperor by the name of Bokassa. Yes. It is an amazing continent, this one we live in. But the thing that characterizes many of our countries is the influence of the legacy that was left by the former colonialists. Because when you have an African country where the official language is French, and you have an African country where the official language is what we're speaking now, English, it bespeaks volumes of the legacy of those who ruled over us at some point or the other.
And the unfortunate bit is that it's like our history starts from when they started ruling us.
Actually, I don't know. I couldn't have put it better than you. When you look at our history, it's like everything that happened before their coming didn't exist.
Yeah, it's like we were not there. It's like they came and started life.
Yes. They invented certain mountains, discovered certain lakes.
Yeah.
And those things had been there all along. They didn't come with them. They found them there.
Surely.
But it also tells us a lot about the colonialists. See, that legacy speaks about us, but it also speaks about them and what they did. But more importantly, it speaks about the heart of those who are here. Because what they left, you cannot recreate it. It is there for you to see and for you to judge.
True.
Yes.
Very true. So let's look at the newspaper headlines. Remember www.standardmedia.co.ke. Become an active member of our online community by visiting that website. Find some premium content. For example, this one. Cobbler graduate. My 10-year degree hustle. Miriam spent a decade toiling to survive, pay rent and university fees by being a cobbler. and Miriam is still a cobbler. So it's an interesting story that's been covered there. Just go to www.standardmedia.co.ke. The headlines today is all about petroleum. Brace for fuel price shocker. That's what the Standard is saying. The new cold. Motorists are expected to pay up to 178 shillings per litre. If the Treasury withdraws the subsidy it has been paying oil marketing companies, Kenyans travelling for Easter festivities will feel the pain when prices are reviewed tonight. Ruby's MD deported in crackdown over hoarding. The Nation headline, Ruby's boss deported. The government yesterday signed deportation papers for Ruby's Energy Kenya Managing Director Jean-Christian Bergeron, who it accused of economic sabotage as it fought oil marketers it blames for setting off a petroleum crisis through hoarding and higher exports despite shortages in their local retail outlets. This as Kenyans' pain at the pump intensified. We saw this happening. I mean, this has been a 2-week unfolding story. And today is when the Cabinet Secretary is going to publicly come and address it. And I'm sure she's going to say, His Excellency the President has been observing this, and His Excellency the President has ordered that this, and the other happen. And you'll ask, where was he?
Yes, I will ask. And that's not the only question I will ask. I will ask a very simple question. The President signed on the subsidy that was go to the oil marketers. Did they get their money? Because in all these discussions, I don't see it anywhere.
Whether the money is being paid to them.
Yes, what you read is, if you look at the Standard, the very top, we are told the government has committed in writing
to
pay oil market, to pay. It ought to be, the government has paid oil marketers. That is what I was hoping I would read. Now, the business of oil is a tricky business. It's a very, very tricky business.
It's cash intensive.
Yeah, it is.
It's a volumes business.
It is.
It's very thin margins.
It is.
And the margins have already been determined.
By the government.
By the government.
Yes.
When you import oil, at the point of importation at the port of Mombasa, KRA is there waiting. Cash upfront.
Yes.
For tax.
Yes.
And then the government says, go and sell. But the profit that you should be making
is this. Yes, they're telling you.
And I'm the one who's holding the profit.
Yes.
And then if you don't, then you are falling into trouble. And you can just equate it to, it's raining now, right?
It is.
Farmers are supposed to be planting, right? So you're saying, farmers, it's raining, plant, so we can have a crop for the next season. Okay, but farmer says, I don't have the seeds. Because the government is the one that is holding the seeds. And is telling the farmer to plant.
So how's the farmer supposed to plant?
And if you don't plant, now the farmer comes and the government comes and says, we have noticed that farmers are not planting, and yet it's raining.
So that story of who's holding the seeds is completely put aside.
No. This poses a great risk to our food security.
Yes.
Now we've identified some big farmers who have big tracts of land and they are not planting. What we're going to do is we're going to take away their farms.
Yes. Because they are actually threatening our national security.
Yes.
Because they're not planting.
Because they're not planting.
All this while...
And then the guy who has the seed says, I have a lot of seeds here.
In fact, I have seeds for 3 seasons.
I have seeds for 3 seasons.
Yes. And yet, what we've been told all along is that there's a shortage.
There's a shortage.
There is no shortage. You see, the thing that I find particularly disturbing is this. In an election year, whenever such a thing happens, unfortunately, my mind goes back to other election years. There was an unga shortage the last time.
Yes.
Then there was a maize scandal also.
Yes.
There is always something that happens around election time.
Yes.
And it involves a lot of money.
Yes.
So, are we supposed to just say that it's coincidence? Are we supposed to look at it and just say, it just so happened? There's nothing untoward about it. The answer is a definitive no.
No way. What exactly is going on? Because that's a deeper question.
I'm actually waiting for the ambassador, Dr. Monica Juma, to come and explain to us and tell us what it is that is actually happening according to her. Because, in all honesty, how do you have a fuel shortage when Kenya Pipeline tells you they have fuel 3 weeks worth in storage. How do you say you have a fuel shortage?
There's fuel in the country. There's no fuel at the petrol stations.
Yes.
And then you come and identify and say, this particular oil company,
this one,
is at fault. There are laws in this country
on
how to deal with such. But instead of subjecting this one to the rule of law,
you deport them.
Why?
It's like,
why not take them to court?
You ought to take them to court because if they have committed a crime you say they have committed, and in the country, the laws in the country apply to this person, they are not in the diplomatic corps.
Exactly. They don't have diplomatic immunity.
No, they don't.
Why not take this person to court?
And let him face
the
law.
And so that you can also take the case before and everybody to understand this is what exactly happened.
And then thereafter deport the person.
Then.
Or has this person been talking to Miguna? Because the last time we saw somebody being bundled out of the country, it was Miguna. Yes.
This gentleman from Ruby's Energy, out.
I mean, come to think about it.
And then what else have you done? So you've deported the managing director.
And then?
So?
Is there fuel at the pumps, the Ruby's petrol stations? And actually, if you look at this, the big dealers, with this Total, with that Shell, they have fuel in some of their stations.
Yes.
The queues are very long.
Even Ruby's have fuel.
Yes, they do. So what are they saying?
Oh, there's about getting fuel and exporting a lot of the fuel that you have in the country.
But they don't just import fuel into Kenya. They export to other parts of East Africa as well.
There's something else that's going on. I do not believe that this fuel shortage is happening without the government knowing exactly what's happening.
The government always, not usually, always knows what is happening. And in this instance, the government knows exactly why it is it's doing what it's doing.
Yep.
So now I'm waiting for them to come and give us a little washover and explain to us what we should understand. Because it is not what is happening, but what they would like us to understand.
Yep.
So I will wait.
They'll give us some story today, but in due course,
the truth will out.
We will see.
Yes.
It's 28 minutes to 7. Let's take this quick break. Take a look at the traffic.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
This April, Sarit, your city is the place to be. Kicking off with daily kids activities from the 1st to 31st of April, comprising a bouncing castle, trampoline, hoverboard, Segway, VR games, and much more during the school break. Also included in the activities is the Ramadan Iftar setup every evening from 4 p.m. onwards. In addition, they have an amazing week-long Easter celebration from the 11th of April 2022, as well as a massive back-to-school sale and offers from the 18th to 27th of April. With all these activities for everyone, you have no reason not to visit Sarit, your city. See you there.
The Easter weekend is finally here. If you are looking for a good way to relax and unwind without leaving the city, join me, Olivia Otieno, on 00 Direct this Saturday from 10 a.m. and find out more about the Movenpick Hotel and Residences and their plans to give you an extraordinary weekend and how you can get a discount courtesy of SpiceFM.
Mombasa Road, South Sea, Bellevue. There are 2 petrol stations there, right?
Yeah.
There is traffic this morning heading towards town.
Yep.
Mombasa Road, Lusaka Road, coming towards the airport. There's a petrol station there.
Jam.
At Nyeri Stadium roundabout, right?
Yep.
There is traffic.
My friend, that thing goes right down.
And the entire roundabout.
Yes.
You know, affecting Langata Road, affecting Lusaka Road, affecting the Mombasa Road itself. Langata Road, there is traffic at the roundabouts. Mbagathi way towards the end, and this is at City Mochi roundabout, there is traffic. And then going Scothek Road, there are 2 petrol stations at the junction. There's a Total, there's a Shell, there's traffic. I can see it here.
There's traffic everywhere, actually.
Everywhere where there's a petrol station that has fuel, there's traffic and it spills over onto the highway. So just be patient. Jogoo Road is also busy, and Thika Road coming into town. It starts at Pangani, the usual place. But Kiambu Road is not looking so bad. Let's see how they'll be looking in about half an hour.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You know, what the oil crisis, as we are calling it, has brought to the fore.
Yes.
Is just the imminent problem that is facing the region.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It isn't, the moment oil prices go up, the prices of all other commodities also shoot up.
Yep.
According to the news that was written by a team of the East African, inflation is up. Okay. In Kenya, it is at 6.29. Uganda is 3.2. Rwanda, it's 4.2. 3.8 in Tanzania, 13.3 in Burundi, DRC, 25, Southern Sudan rather, 25%, DRC, 5%. And it is likely to keep rising.
Wow.
Yes. Because what this means, therefore, is that the cost of living in East and Central Africa is going to continue going up. They can blame Russia, all they like. They can blame whoever they want, all they like.
Yep.
The truth of the matter is that it's going to happen. But the question that needs to be asked is, who controls the fuel business in this region? Who are the people who are behind it? I asked the question because yesterday we were talking about it. I mentioned that fuel isn't like the Kadogo business, salad oil, where you go to buy salad oil for the day, or sugar for the day, or tea leaves for the day. No. When it is bought, it's bought in bulk and it's supposed to last at least a month or so. Now, why do I ask this question? It means the people who are in this business are people who have the capacity to be in the business. We've not had a problem with oil. We've not had a problem with fuel. The war in Ukraine has been there for some time. We are going to be told it is now beginning to bite and it's now beginning to show. We understand all that. The price of steel has gone up something like 300%. The price of almost everything.
It's gone up.
Everything has gone up.
Yep.
We are told we can no longer, we are going to experience shortages of wheat products. Okay. That having been said, the question that then I want to ask is, are you telling us that those who govern our countries could not see that this is going to happen? Or they had no clue this is going to happen? And even if they didn't, and it has happened, apart from telling us the obvious, that the cost of living is going up, what are they doing to shield their people from this? Because the people of East Africa did not cause these problems.
Yep.
They didn't bring the problems upon themselves. The best the leaders seem to be saying is, the politicians should tell the people the truth. Okay, fine. Having told them the truth, what are you doing to ensure that these citizens are protected?
Yep. What's the way out?
Yes.
What's the game plan?
What is the game plan?
You can't just be in government and saying, they're being affected by all vagaries and doing nothing about it.
And it's telling us, we all know what is happening. We can see what is happening.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't want to, someone will tell you. So, okay, we've gotten that. What are you doing? And you'll find what they're doing is telling us that the prices are going to go up.
Prices are going to go up.
Yes, that's what they're going to tell us.
Already, the World Bank is telling us that Kenya tops countries with high food prices, according to its latest ranking. Kenya is among the countries in sub-Saharan Africa whose citizens experienced the highest spike in food prices in February compared to the same month last year. A new report by the World Bank says the rate at which food prices in Kenya increased over 1 year, technically known as food inflation, was close to that in war-ravaged countries on this continent. Sudan, Ethiopia, Angola. Can you hear those?
Yes.
Sudan, Ethiopia, Angola, Kenya.
We're in that bracket.
Those four, we are
leading.
They have the highest rates of food inflation in the region.
Why?
Food inflation in February was at 8.69% compared to 6.9% in 2021, February. The report says Kenya is among the countries which experienced two-digit food inflation in the region. More than 4 out of 5 countries experienced year-on-year food inflation that exceeded 5%. Kenyans have been grappling with high food prices. Huku hayo ya kijiri, right? As all that is happening, Ukur Yatani, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, after presenting his budget proposals to Parliament last week, he then followed it up with the taxation measures, which is contained in the finance bill. So the finance bill is before Parliament, and he is basically seeking to raise taxes left, right, and centre. One of the things that Ukur Yatani has proposed to do is to introduce 16% VAT on commodities like maize, wheat, and cassava flour. Food. VAT on food items. This has raised a lot of issue and a huge furore in Parliament, with, for example, the leader of the minority, John Badi, addressing a press conference yesterday and says, members who are in the Finance Committee have been instructed to shoot down proposals in the Finance Bill seeking to increase the prices of goods. The bill presented by Ukur Yatani last week in Parliament proposes to introduce 16% VAT on wheat, cassava, flour and maize. The CS also proposed an increase in taxation of motorcycles and bottled water so as to finance the 3.3 trillion shillings budget. And now ODM is like, pana bwana, hey, no. You've come too much. Same thing has been said by the Deputy President, that the UDA affiliated MPs in Parliament have been asked, please, shoot this down.
That was to be expected. What I have always found strange is that the citizens of this country are very compliant. We actually do pay our taxes. To understand how we pay our taxes, look at the orderly manner in which Kenyans are queuing for fuel.
Yep.
Why am I attaching fuel to taxes? When you buy fuel in this country, you are paying. Yes. That burden that the government levies on these marketers right from the port, it is you who pays it. Because you're the one, by the time you're buying that fuel at the pump, everything that has been lumped onto it, it is you, the consumer, who actually pays for all of it.
Yes.
So we patiently queue to pay taxes.
Yes.
We patiently queue to ensure that our SIM cards are registered or activated. Patiently. So the government collects money.
Yes.
What on God's good earth do you do with the money? Because you always have a shortage, and yet you keep telling us that KRA collects beyond what they targeted. What on earth are these people talking to us about? What are they telling us?
Some question that we were asking last week. Why must we start with a 3 trillion shilling budget?
Yes, why? Why?
Must the budget be 3.3 trillion shillings?
No, it doesn't have to be 3.3 trillion. We know what we collect. Why are we not budgeting with what we collect?
Live within our means, man.
Yes.
So the target this time is to collect 2 trillion shillings or 2.2 trillion shillings from the taxpayers, all right? Up from about 1.9 trillion that we collected last year.
1.9 trillion is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
You know
if you gave Kibaki 1.9 trillion shillings,
it revolutionized the country completely. These guys got onto this footing of just spending money, and they haven't gotten out of it.
Yep.
So everything we're saying falls on deaf ears.
We have a spending problem.
Yes. They just want to get it wherever you can get it, spend, and then worry about how you're going to pay for it later. Yes. But meanwhile, look for ways. And look at how blind they are. You want to tax your people to the bone. What do you think you are doing? You are fomenting disgruntlement. And what do you think will be the end result of disgruntlement? Every single day, this government does something that is fanning. That very same thing. You wake up in the morning, your life is worse than it was the day before.
Yep.
You go to bed, you haven't slept very well, it is worse the following day.
Yep.
Just when you think you've gotten a handle of it, fuel problem.
You know, someone was saying that is it possible that even all these things, the fuel problem coming soon in the back of this instruction to go and queue and register your SIM cards and all these other things that are happening, is it the state just trying to push and see, okay, so how much further can we push these guys?
Yes.
How compliant are they?
Yes, it is possible.
For something else.
This government, in this country, it's very possible. It's very, very, very possible. In
So,
fact,
fuel price, there's a shortage of fuel. Now today, if they come and announce that fuel is going to be 200 bob, we'll say, is there going to be fuel?
Yes. We'll pay
Okay,
200.
we'll pay 200. The issue of the price will not be the issue. It'll be, is there supply?
It isn't the first time in this country where such a thing happens. You see, now, in this era of social media and in the information age, you can proliferate that information quickly, fast, everywhere. In the Moi era, before this, the person who was responsible for many of these things used to be Sharif Nasir. And a couple of others, Juno, Jeru. You find somebody coming up and saying, saying the craziest of things, and you're wondering, what on earth are these people talking about? They were testing the ground.
That's it.
They were testing the ground.
Say something absurd, watch the reaction.
And the past master testing the ground was the former late President Daniel Arap Moi. Do you remember the multi-party thing at Kasarani? Everybody stood up and said, multi-party, go to hell and don't come back.
He's evil.
Kwenda
He's Satan himself.
Mugumo tree cannot be cut down by a razor blade, etc., etc., etc. Then the man stands up and says, it is okay. We are going to have multi-parties. When everybody has said we don't want it. And that same crowd stands up and says, multi-partyism is the best thing that could happen to us.
Yeah, you're the wisest leader.
Whoever said that the ground is being tested may have a very valid point.
Could be something.
It could. I actually think there could be something.
Because you cannot really explain what is all this. There's no fuel.
Eric, at the same time.
At the same time. All of this happening together.
At the same time.
Yeah.
And then we have party nominations.
Yes. Come on. Time for a quick break. Remind you about crime and justice on Showmax. For as little as 700 and how much? 60 shillings a month. You subscribe to Showmax and you get access to all this interesting content, whether it's TV, dramas, documentaries, movies, series, telenovelas, and all. Crime and Justice is one of them. It launched last year, season 1 in February, and it was widely acclaimed, did very, very well. Very many people watching it. Season 2 is coming up in a few days' time. Lead actors and actresses here. There's Detective Silas, who is Alfred Munywa. There is DCI boss Kebo, Makbul Mohammed, Detective McKenna, Sarah Hassan, and they are coming back. Sarah Hassan won the Best TV Drama, Best Lead Actress at the 2021 Kalasha Awards. The series had also been nominated for Best TV Drama and Best Lead Actor, which was Alfred Munywa. At least they got that. So, 760. Start there. Subscribe. And then you get access to Showmax and watch all this content.
You know, when you mentioned crime and
justice,
you remind me of Crime and Punishment. Yes, a book written by a gentleman, a Russian writer by the name of Dostoevsky. And interesting, many of the writings of that particular era formed the conglomeration of novels that are now referred to as classics. But they delved into the minds of their characters. So a lot of the times when you're reading, you are walking through the mind of the character or the main characters in that particular novel. You know what they're thinking, so you can more or less figure out what they're going to do.
Feel
next.
them.
Yes, you do. You live with them.
11 minutes to 7. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
What is it?
Hi, my friend.
Mornings done.
A little less interesting this time. Okay? I am looking at, let me read it out for you so that you can see. Okay? Excuse me. Remember some times back, we were talking about the possibility of there being the first black lady to be appointed to the Supreme Court
of America.
Judge of America. You may have mentioned when I was on leave, but she did become the. Now, again, in a country that is polarized by race as the U.S., it may not seem significant, but it is. these first woman, first black woman, first black man, it's important because the minorities in a country such as that have never actually felt that they are part and parcel of that country. And with this inclusion, one then gets to feel that they are. Now, why do I choose this story? I choose this story because I am looking at our country and I'm looking at the nominations that are taking place. There will be some fantastic fallouts. They always are. People who feel they've been shortchanged, people who feel they won and they didn't win. But the beauty of these nominations that we have is that for the first time in this country, there is a plethora of political parties who are holding their nominations. And there is a plethora of choices that the wananchi have. Now, what this does is it enables people to feel that representation is at their doorstep and you have the ability to choose and decide. You're not cloistered into some 2 or 3 big parties. You have a choice and you can move around. That to me is a good thing, because just like minorities feel that they are not part and parcel of what happens within their country, even in this country of ours, there are communities who feel they are minorities and they are never really included in the discussions of what happens in the country. But I am saying that what we have going on right now
with these nominations,
yes, the nominations.
How are the minorities being catered for in the nominations?
The nominations represent very many political parties, not 1 or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And when you have many political parties, it means you've spread the cake. There are more people who can voice their opinions in whichever party they see fit, as opposed to previously when there were 2 or 3 or 4 and they've increased. All I'm saying is that the proliferation of political parties is a good thing. That is what I'm saying.
So it increases the opportunities for others.
Opportunities for others to have their voices heard in whatever manner they have. The opportunity is presented. So you cannot say that I'm being held captive in this little party where there are bigger people who are dominating me. You have your own little space where you can voice your views.
Why are the big parties not allowing the small voices to have their say way?
I don't think they deny the small parties their way. I think it's just the nature of dominance and the nature of size. If we are more in number, we are likely to be louder than those who are fewer.
No. You see, what we are witnessing in the nominations and all this fallout is not because of democracy and the nominations. It's because of the feeling of handpicking.
Oh, but I'm in agreement with you.
So why would the big parties and the owners of the big parties not really want to embrace championing and supporting, the marginalized?
They think that within their midst there are people who already come from those communities who are marginalized within their parties. But if you look at the parties that we are seeing being formed, they are regional parties. Individuals forming parties in the region that they come from. That's what I'm saying. Voices that may not have been heard regionally have an opportunity to be heard regionally because there's a party within that region that can champion their cause. Yes, as opposed to joining a bigger party where your voice may be swallowed up by all the other people who are within that bigger party. Yes, that's really what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes.
As we say that, then today is D-Day for your UDA nominations. Some aspirants given direct tickets for key seats already. Some aspirants already complaining. For example, there's a story here about a governor hopeful who wants $500,000 refund, claiming that he was dumped by the deputy president. A UDA governor aspirant in Bungoma County is accusing the DP William Ruto of shortchanging him. Zakaria Barasa, a businessman who's been popularizing UDA, claims Ruto dropped him for Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka, who defected to Fort K from Jubilee. I have spent a fortune for the time I've been on the ground drumming up support for myself and the DP. Being shortchanged during injury time is inhumane and political deceit. I'm giving UDA top management organ 7 days to refund my $500,000 I paid as nomination fees. The businessman said he had been assured no aspirant would be given preferential treatment, but they changed tune midway and the DP is shortchanging his own foot soldiers. According to Barasa, his fate was sealed on Monday when top UDA party officials asked him to shelve his ambition in favor of Lusaka, saying it would have been better if parties allied to Kenya Kwanza were allowed to field candidates. But Barasa has vowed to be on the ballot on the 9th in spirited attempt to unseat Wycliffe Wangamati, the current governor. This is just one of those stories that we are seeing as the nominations happen in UDA, as the nominations are happening in ODM. Same story.
Jubilee.
Jubilee have said that they are not going to have people universal suffrage. Jubilee has written to IEBC, and this is from the Secretary General, Jeremiah Kioni, telling the IEBC they will issue direct tickets in areas where there is only one aspirant, and in regions where there are more aspirants eyeing the Jubilee ticket. Kioni has told the IEBC they'd use consensus and other methods as provided for by the party regulations. Jubilee will issue direct nomination certificates. Where the party has more than one aspirant, the party will select candidates through consensus and other methods. And says the president is leading the exercise, and we want a situation where there will be no loser. All those who have expressed interest will also have something to take home after elections. So Jubilee, they've said, telling people to come and queue. We are not doing that.
You see, my point exactly. If you come from a community who are numerically fewer than others, and you are in one of these big parties, because the parties we mentioned are all big parties, and suddenly you are told that there is direct nomination. That's it. That's it for you.
Yeah.
The only saving grace is if that area of yours, you're the only candidate, then it will be you. But from what I see, my friend, these seats are all being contested. Your party may not have many contestants, but there are other parties who will have contestants.
Yeah.
Now, that's the point. That there are many parties having contestants, it means somebody who might not have had a chance if they were in a big party now has a chance to actually be a contestant.
To be a contestant.
Yes.
In a smaller party.
In a smaller party. Even not even known beyond the boundaries of that particular place. But they have a chance. Yes.
You talked about people being compliant and queuing.
Yes.
Confusion as Safaricom flip-flops on listing. Confusion continues to reign on the requirement for mobile phone subscribers to visit their service providers to register their SIM cards afresh ahead of tomorrow's deadline. It had come as a relief for millions when CA last Sunday clarified that subscribers who had already registered their SIM cards could confirm their status by dialing *106# without having to go to the service providers. The USSD code allows users to confirm phone numbers registered under their IDs. They did not have to physically present themselves to the telcos. That is according to the Communications Authority. Most subscribers who did so, particularly Safaricom subscribers, received confirmation messages indicating the phone numbers registered under their national ID cards. However, as the 15th deadline set by the CA nears, Safaricom appears to have taken an about turn from "Dear customer, the number registered using your ID are blah 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 blah" to "Please visit the nearest shop or agent to resubmit your details."
You know, this is nonsense.
You know me, I'm not doing this. I've done *106. It has told me I registered my number a long time ago. Never changed my number.
I join you in that. I'm most definitely not going to queue. I'm not going to queue. In the information age, and these people are in that business.
Imagine.
Where you can verify the information because they have it. And then you want me to go and physically queue. I mean, what on earth are you telling me?
And you pride yourself to be the telco that's leading the information age and the digitization.
And then you're taking us back to the Stone Age. No.
Telcom and Airtel have already said they have a portal. You go to the portal, you submit your details, and that's it. This one by Safaricom is a bit confusing.
Whoever it is in Safaricom must come up with this crazy thing. I'd better go and revise whatever it is that they're saying.
Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. So in the next hour, we'll have Justice Thursday's conversation talking about the tribunals. Remember, Colgate and Well Boring, a UK NGO, have been doing some work in some 7 counties in the country. This is drilling boreholes, supplying and providing water to communities. These boreholes and wells are being sunk at schools, and then the wells are then serving communities. They want to do some 30 more wells by the end of this year. And they're saying if you go and buy Colgate, especially at Naivas supermarket, part of the proceeds of this will go towards this initiative where they want to sink some 30 extra wells. This is a very, very big thing that they're doing, making sure that communities have access to safe drinking water. Good morning, 7 a.m.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The Ministry of Petroleum has announced that it will be issuing a comprehensive statement regarding the fuel situation in the country today. The address will be delivered by Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Monica Juma. At a time, the country has been hit by a massive shortage of petroleum products. Juma is expected, among other things, to shed light on what might have occasioned the current situation, even as reports indicate that some oil marketing companies might be guilty of hoarding the much sought-after commodity. These as the government has cracked the whip on oil marketers accused of economic sabotage by exporting fuel meant for the local market. The first on the firing line is Ruby's Chief Executive Officer Jean-Christian Barjon, who was deported to France. Kenya has experienced a major fuel shortage in the past 2 weeks in what the government blamed on oil marketers who export fuel meant for the local market. Now, the National Assembly Leader of Minority John Mbadi has accused a section of politicians of peddling lies about the proposed tax measures to fund the next fiscal year. Mbadi says politicians opposed to the handshake are playing populist politics with the tax proposals in the Financial Bill 2022 that are still being processed. These coming days after the United Democratic Alliance Party pledged to rally its troops in Parliament to oppose the Finance Bill 2022, consequently shooting down proposals in the 2022-2023 budget. The leader of minority in the National Assembly, John Mbadi, has faulted the move, claiming those opposed to the bill are being dishonest and are seeking to thrive in populist politics. United Democratic Alliance registered members are today set to participate in the party's nomination exercise that has been dubbed a mini-election. The party's National Election Board chairperson Anthony Moura disclosed that the exercise will be conducted in 36 counties in 15,000 polling stations across the country. The voting exercise began at 6 a.m. and concludes at 5 p.m., paving way for the vote counting exercise. Party members will be voting for candidates in 981 electoral seats, which are up for grabs. According to Moura, 13 counties will nominate their governor, while 18 counties will be identifying their Senate candidates. Now, the High Court has nullified a requirement that members of Parliament must have a university degree. Justice Anthony Mrima termed the requirement unconstitutional as there was no adequate public participation. He was ruling on a petition by voters Paul Macharia Wambui, Joseph Karanja Mushai and David Kimani Njenga. The ruling that comes in the wake of the ongoing political parties' primaries offers a big relief to political aspirants who do not have that academic qualification. In July 2021, the Senate Committee on Justice, Legal and Human Rights, chaired by Nyamira Senator Okoh Mogeni, held a virtual meeting to deliberate on two draft election amendment bill 2021 sponsored by Senators Kipchumba Murkomen of Elgeyo Marakwet and his Naru counterpart Ledama Olekina. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and his Principal Secretary Dr. Karanja Kibisho have said they aren't bothered by criticism directed at them by a section of political leaders. The duo, which has come under repeated attacks by critics for allegedly directing selective harassment of government opponents, said they were being targeted for discharging their official duties. Addressing the National Delegates Conference of Chiefs at Charitas, Nyeri County, they said they had no apologies to make for their perceived high-handedness in enforcing the law and order. Now, former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has paid 100,000 shillings fine for a man who was jailed for shoplifting in a supermarket. Sonko said the fine for Alvin Linus Chifondo, who had been sentenced after he pleaded guilty to stealing cooking oil. The former Nairobi governor also promised Chivondo a monthly stock of food in addition to a job. During the sentencing, the prosecution counsel submitted that the suspect visited a supermarket hall posing like a customer on April 10, 2022. The 22-year-old is said to have proceeded to pick the items from the shelves and placing them in a shopping basket. And the East African community will support its newest member, the Democratic Republic of Congo, to find a way out of the insecurity challenges. EAC Secretary General Dr. Peter Mathuki, speaking just days after DRC joined the bloc, disclosed that the region's member states will mobilize resources and develop infrastructure to address insecurity issues that are affecting the country. To realize this, he said the regional bloc will be working together with the development partners to develop the infrastructure, a major enabler to economic development. While responding to questions during a conversation on Jumuiya Spaces on Twitter, Dr. Mathuki called on all citizens of the EAC trading bloc, which has since expanded, to give focus to issues that will steer mutual development in the region. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, so we've talked about what's happening. This is everywhere where there's a petrol station and people are trying to scramble for fuel, there's going to be traffic on the highways. So, for example, on Mombasa Road, as you approach Bellevue this morning, because there are two petrol stations, and I think the two petrol stations are fuel, there is traffic that is stretching all the way into Bellevue, and then it clears, and then as you get towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout, there's a petrol station that's on your way at Nyayo Stadium roundabout, on your way to the airport. There's traffic into the roundabout and out of the roundabout into the petrol station. Everybody wants fuel. There's traffic as well on Langata Road as you approach Mbagathi, where we know there's a construction of the expansion of that road that's been taking place, and that's the cause of it. There's a bit of traffic snarl up as you are heading towards town on Gong Road. Jogoo Road is busy this morning, as it always is. Let's see, how is Thika Road? Yeah, the usual spot, and this is in Pangani. The junction from Kiambu Road into Thika Road into Muranga Road, and then out of Muranga Road is busy. But it's not so bad yet. It's better than we see most mornings at this time. Let's see how it will be looking like in about half an hour, and we'll tell you about it.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching
8
up,
minutes after 7.
not
How are you doing? A very
This
good morning
is
and
the
welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. If you're just joining us, this is the second hour of the show today, the 14th day of March 2022. We know we're expecting the president to launch us into April. Until he does that, kitaumana. Long queues at fuel stations, no fuel yet in pumps in Kitengela as well. Very frustrating. It's frustrating. Everybody who's just on the road this morning, whether it's those who are looking for fuel or those who are looking to just get to work because there's traffic snarl-ups. Before we start the conversation on Justice Thursdays, today we are looking at tribunals. Let's hear the day's proverb from City.
Yes, today's proverb comes from Gabon.
Mm-hmm.
When the bee comes to your house, let her drink beer. You may want to visit the bee's house one day.
When the bee comes to your house, let her drink beer.
Yes.
You may want to visit the bee.
In their house.
In their house.
One day.
One day.
Mm.
All right. I'm assuming that the Gabonese make their beer. Do they use honey at some point?
Yes. Whenever Proverbs tell you many things. They tell you about the people. They tell you about the lives of the people.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you about the socioeconomic position, condition of the people.
Mm.
They also tell you about the geography. They tell you about everything you want to know about. Remember yesterday we were talking about, the day before we were talking about elephants,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and their tasks. And we said that it is not possible for a proverb that has in it an elephant coming from Switzerland, because they don't have elephants in Switzerland. They may have them in zoos, but they're not native to that country.
Yeah.
By the same token, you cannot have a proverb that deals with snow and ice in most parts of this country.
From Western Sahara.
We do not have. Yes. So, or talking about a desert in the middle of the Amazon forest. So, again, I am certain that they have bees. I am certain that bees are part and parcel of their livelihood.
No, I was just wondering whether the alcoholic drinks are made with honey.
That I do not
If it was a Kikuyu proverb, for example, they would have said, give the bee Muratina. Now, you know, Muratina, giving bee Muratina, you've made Muratina using honey.
Yes.
All right? And so it's plying it with its own.
Yes.
Then when you go now to visit the bee, the Muratina that it will serve you.
My friend.
Hey.
It will be quality Muratina.
Top Murats.
It could not get better
than that, right?
No, it couldn't.
Yeah. Justice Thursdays, our conversation is what we want to have today, and the head of Tribunal Secretariat and Registrar of the tribunals as well is with us in the studio. Anne Asuga, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. This is called Kenya's Biggest Conversation. What you're sitting on is the hot seat. We warm it so that, everybody who comes here, it's early morning. Sometimes, it's been raining at night in some parts of Nairobi. It could have been cold. So we warm it so that you just feel comfortable. When the bee comes to your home,
welcome the bee.
And give it
tea.
Yes.
Tea. A little bit early to talk about Muratina, but that's fine.
Yeah. Have some tea so that when we come to your court or your tribunal, you know what we'll expect.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Honey.
Some honey. Sindio?
Yes.
We're talking about tribunals and the importance then of tribunals in the country. First, I think we may need to have just a basic Mwananchi definition of what is a tribunal.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me today to speak about tribunals in the judiciary. And the basic definition of tribunals is that they are specialized bodies that have judicial character.
Mm-hmm.
They are clothed with judicial powers in the sense that they are determining disputes between two people. There are two disputants. One is claiming this, the other one is claiming this, and there is an arbiter to listen to that, or a panel of arbiters. So tribunals are distinct, specialized bodies that deal with sectoral specific issues that are not general, and they hear disputes between government and civilians, or civilians and civilians. And they don't have any criminal jurisdiction. They don't do penal matters. So you don't have a murder tribunal, for instance, because that's a criminal offense. They only deal with civil disputes, yes.
So it's some form of arbitration, or is that different?
It is not a form of arbitration. It's a form of dispute resolution that is not necessarily court-like.
Okay.
It is court-like, but not strictly court in the sense of rules of procedure and technicalities and the way that the matters are conducted. If you go to court, you will find in court there are very, very many rules and procedures that you need to follow. You file a whole lot of documentation. Normally in courts you have a judicial officer, that's a magistrate, a judge, singularly sitting to hear matters.
Yes.
In tribunals you'll find that's different. Most of the tribunals are run by a bench of 3 minimum, and usually 5 sometimes. So an act of parliament will stipulate how many people sit in a panel. And the people sitting in those panels are specialists in the area of expertise. So you will not have all of them as lawyers. To be a judge in this country, you have to be a lawyer. To be in a tribunal, you don't need to be a legal person. You just need to be a specialist in the field that the tribunal is dealing in.
You know, a couple of weeks back, we hosted the Honorable Caroline Kendago, who is the Deputy Registrar for Mediation.
Yes.
So how do you distinguish mediation into this? Is it part of what you do?
You see, Eric, Article 159 of the Constitution is very clear that judiciary and tribunals shall promote alternative sources of dispute resolution. And the Chief Justice's vision of STARJ, the social transformation through access to justice, has what we call the multi-door approach to justice. So there are many doorways of getting justice. One of them is mediation. One of them is through tribunals. One of them is through small claims courts. One of them is AJES, which is Alternative Justice Systems. And of course, the other one is through the courts. So mediation is strictly different because tribunals are part of the users of the mediation as part of justice administration. The thing with tribunals is that they're established by acts of parliament. So you'll find in Kenya, we have about 38 tribunals as currently constituted, established by 38 acts of parliament. And each act of parliament stipulates how the tribunal will be run, the jurisdiction, the quorum, the remuneration, the number of members, and so forth and so forth. So tribunals is one of the doorways that exist to access justice in this country.
Okay.
Yes.
Some examples of tribunals.
Oh, there are quite a number. There is, for your sector, for instance, you have Communication and Multimedia Appeals Tribunal. There's the Aviation Tribunal that deals with skyways and airline issues and, all those things to do with aviation. You have the Energy and Petroleum Tribunal, the crisis you have for fuel shortage. Any decision made by EPRA is supposed to go to the Energy and Petroleum Tribunal. And I know they are sitting today to listen to some of those things that are happening in the country. You have the Business Premises and Rent Tribunal. If you're a member of a SACCO and you have a dispute with your SACCO, you go to the Cooperative Tribunal because that's the one that deals with issues of members of SACCOs. Have your deposits been taken away? Are you not getting your deposits? If you're a pensioner and the Retirement Benefits Authority is not giving you your pension, you go to the Retirement Benefits Tribunal and complain there about a decision on the retirement benefits that you haven't gotten. So there are quite a number. There are quite a number of tribunals. Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Siti.
What I was going to ask is, if you look at a tribunal that say would cover matters that pertain to the media, just give me an example of the sort of dispute that would come, that would be brought, or something that you've heard of that comes before a tribunal that deals with this particular sector.
For instance, let's talk about the Communication and Multimedia Appeals Tribunal. If you look at Safaricom and Airtel and issues of SIM card registration, issues of termination rates, those are issues that actually come to the Communication and Multimedia Appeals Tribunal. If you look at Media Complaints Commission, and journalists and people in the media space, they normally complain to that space, and if that they're not satisfied, they can do appeals to the it's called CAMAT in short, Communication and Multimedia Appeals Tribunal. So every sector has sort of a specialized, the most key issue is the specialization of the members that sit in those tribunals from their own field, but are also led by a legal person to do the judicial part of it, because you have to consider access to justice. You hear one side and you must hear the other side, and that's why it has the judicial character that we were talking about, but strictly speaking, not in the court sense of it in terms of the rules of procedure.
Do you get a sense sometimes, looking at the tribunals that have been created by the various acts of parliament, that some of them are duplicating roles of others? So, for example, Business Premises Rent Tribunal and Rent Restriction Tribunal. What's the difference?
Yes, absolutely. There are some overlaps, and there is a plan or a policy underway that is to rationalize and sort of consolidate some of them. Business Premises Rent Tribunal deals with rent from business premises. If you are sitting in these premises that we are sitting in and it is rented and you don't pay rent, then that's based on whether you're a controlled tenant or a leased tenant, which is a technical issue now, you would go to the business premises. The rent restriction, on the other hand, deals with the house you live in, your dwelling place. So if you don't pay rent at your dwelling place, then you go to the rent restriction tribunal. But Parliament, having realized that there are duplication and there is overlap, has come up with the Landlord and Tenant Bill, which has advanced considerably. It's in the Senate now. It's almost, I think, in the third reading or second reading. So they have consolidated those two to make it just the Landlord and Tenant Tribunal. to stop the overlaps between the two. But yes, there are overlaps and there's need for rationalization so that you don't have all of them scattered.
Okay. And then at what point does someone need to go, for example, to a rent dispute tribunal? If you have the small claims court and you have the AJS, where do you determine? So this one, you need to go to the alternative justice system. This one goes to mediation. This one goes to small claims court. And this one goes to specific tribunal.
Okay. So thank you for that question. We have what is called concurrent jurisdiction. The High Court has original jurisdiction in civil and criminal matters across the country. The Rent Restriction Tribunal deals with rent issues. If I owe you rent and it is below 1 million shillings,
yes,
it is a similar claim to what would a small claims court would actually listen to.
Yeah.
So there's a question of concurrent jurisdiction there. But the courts have settled it in several decisions, including the Court of Appeal, that the forum that is given as your first instance to come is where you go. And you will find that judges and even magistrates will refer those claims to the Rent Restriction Tribunal because that's the first forum required by law for you to appear. So you will find very, good, would you say clever litigants? We are Kenyans.
Yeah.
I can file at the rent restriction based on how fast I want it done, or I can go to the small claims and mark my time. And the adjudicator at the small claims might not know that I have a case in the Rent Restriction Tribunal. And I can file even in the business, the three of them, whichever gives me, it's at the very tail end is when somebody will realize, no, you are not supposed to be here. So there's that concurrent jurisdiction, but ideally it ought to be stemmed at the filing level. So it's for us to sensitize the people who receive matters that this is a rent claim, you go to the rent restriction. This is a claim for small claims, yes.
There's a headline today in, today is Thursday, so Standard has the real estate section. What to do when your landlord eats deposit money? Is that where they go to this rent tribunal?
It depends on the landlord. Is it a landlord for business premises? Is it a landlord for rent? But that's where they end. That's where they go to. That's where their dispute is articulated and determined.
Where the issues of landlord having eaten deposit.
Absolutely. Eric, the advantages with tribunals is that they decongest the courts. Those matters don't go to the mainstream courts.
Yeah.
The timelines in tribunals are very short. They are shorter than even the small claims. There are tribunals that have to make decisions within 30 days. So your matters are heard very, very quickly. But also they are very specialized. The people who sit in the panels are specialists in their own area. So you will find if it's energy, there are engineers from the petroleum sector, from the energy sector. So the specialization bit gives a decision that, actually reflects what is on the ground in terms of specifics, in terms of technical advice. So that's one of the reasons why tribunals exist, because of the specialization.
And if you have an issue with the tribunal, where then do you go?
So if you are aggrieved by a tribunal in terms of an appeal?
Yes, in terms of the outcomes of whatever took you there.
Yes. Every statute prescribes where you go to appeal in case you're dissatisfied with an outcome of a tribunal. For instance, for rent restriction and business premises, you go straight to Environment and Land Court. That's very, very specific. For the other tribunals, you appeal to the High Court. So there's an appellate mechanism that you're dissatisfied, you appeal to the High Court. A while ago, before the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there were statutes that would not allow tribunals' decisions to be appealed in terms of the tribunal decision was final. Yes, but that has changed, and the Constitution has expanded a lot of space in terms of justice administration.
Okay, now a tribunal makes a decision. How do they enforce it?
Most tribunals do not have powers to enforce their decisions. You have to go to the magistrate courts or the High Court to enforce their decisions. A few tribunals do. And I'm so glad you've asked that question, because one of the things I mentioned earlier is that we are working on a policy framework to regulate or the governance framework of tribunals. You see, if you have 38 statutes regulating 38 tribunals in terms of governance framework, in terms of how do you file, how do you appoint, how do you pay, what are the qualifications, and they're all different. So every statute gives the tribunal its own powers. So some statutes give tribunals power to enforce their own decisions. For instance, cooperative tribunal enforces its own decisions. Business premises the same. There are others that you actually have to take the order to the magistrate's court or to the high court to enforce that decision, yes.
You see, if you then have to go to yet another jurisdiction to have this matter enforced, the time-saving aspect that the tribunal was supposed to afford you,
yes,
is it then not nullified? Because, or is there a fast-track process where if you've gone to the tribunal and it is known, he may talk a tribunal,
you go to us. There's a lane for you.
There's a lane for you with a red marking.
Yes.
Not really. There's not like a lane, but nature of tribunals is the specialized nature of a tribunal is when an order is given. Most of the times the parties comply. So you don't really have to, you go to enforce an order when the other party actually declines to comply. So you need to use some form of judicial action to make them comply. And I agree with you, the timeline could be expanded, and of course it would be the purpose of having shorter timelines at tribunals, which is why we need to work on the framework. But we've not had very, very serious instances where tribunal matters are lined up because of lack of enforcement. That hasn't been very, very, it's not a matter of notoriety, so to speak. But it could be, especially for rent issues and business premises and rent issues. But for the other tribunals, it's hardly a matter of notoriety. But it's a policy framework in the making.
The reason why I asked the question is because one hears of even court orders.
Yes.
And the order is issued, and thereafter, the enforcement becomes a point of discussion.
Yes.
Not actually enforcement.
Yes.
We've even heard bodies that deal with such matters like the ethics and anti-corruption. Again, comes to enforcement, another story arises. So, we were told that because of these problems, all these agencies that deal with more or less the same thing have a committee where they meet and discuss and they move forward. Are the tribunals part and parcel of this body of judicial officers, security officers, and all these officers that deal with these same matters? Are they part of it?
Okay. Tribunals are within judiciary.
Yes.
They are part of NCAJ.
Yes.
So all issues relating to tribunal governance are under the Office of the Chief Justice and the Chief Registrar of the judiciary. So issues relating to administration of justice in the tribunal sector is also discussed at that level of NCAJ. So issues of policy, governance framework, how we do enforcement, because most of the issues we deal with affect large sectors of the economy. So if you are in the public-private partnership space and an order has been given that this public-private partnership should move on, as the person who is enforcing it, as either as the contracting authority or as the bidder, you really cannot not obey that order and wait for enforcement. So, as I've said, the tribunal space is more specialized and very sectoral. It's not the chances or the opportunities for not enforcing those orders are usually very slim, unless it's matters of notoriety like rent and cooperative and business premises. We have issues where orders are not enforced. But in the other sector, which is the bigger sector, we haven't had that. But yes, tribunals are part of the NCAJ body that the CJ leads, and that's where those issues are discussed, yes.
And you head the Tribunal Secretariat.
Yes.
What is that?
The Tribunal Secretariat is a secretary that coordinates the affairs of tribunals. Prior to the Constitution of Kenya 2010, tribunals were managed as part of departments in the executive. So they were part of the ministry, so to speak, and some still are. So the Constitution of Kenya 2010 placed tribunals in the judiciary, and the transition of tribunals from the executive began. And so to coordinate the affairs of that transition, coordinate the affairs of tribunals in terms of how do they budget? How do they run? When do members expire, and who lets know the authorities that members have expired? how do you, who is the liaison person between tribunals and the judiciary in terms of making sure they are run efficiently, members are facilitated. That's the work of the Tribunal Secretariat that I head. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a registrar, then you are in charge of the administration
Absolutely.
of all the tribunals.
I am overall in charge of the people who run tribunals. Every tribunal has an administrator who is a AIE holder, meaning they are authorized to incur expenditure. So every tribunal has its own budget. That budget is appropriated by the judiciary. So the judiciary funds the tribunals, and we oversee how that budget is run to ensure that it gives value for money as required by the Constitution. Yeah.
And how about now coordination of the work of the tribunal itself in terms of looking at the caseloads, looking at the pace at which they are working?
Yes.
Is that still under you?
So every tribunal, let's take for instance the Energy and Petroleum Tribunal. Every tribunal has a minimum of 5 members. Some have maximum of 9. The PPDT, and I know you hosted the chair.
Yep, political parties dispute tribunal.
Yes, has expanded to now 26 members, with 18 being ad hoc. The chair in a tribunal is the overall manager of the tribunal in terms of case administration. That's the judicial function. So in terms of whether cases are moving, the case management, that's the responsibility of the chair and the responsibility of the administrator and the court administrator. Because every tribunal has an administrator who is managing staff, managing finances, but they also have a court administrator who is managing the registry.
Okay.
So I come in if Eric went to a tribunal and couldn't be heard, and there was a problem. The chairpersons have not been paid, and there's a problem. So that is my office is to make sure the welfare of the members and the staff who work there is being looked at the judiciary level.
And the customers.
And the customers.
Okay.
Yes.
Time for us to take a break. It's 7:30, Kenya's biggest conversation. Anne Asuga is a registrar and head of tribunals at Secretariat. We are talking about tribunals today and trying to understand, so what are tribunals, what's their role, what's their mandate, how many tribunals do we have, in what sectors do they cover, and how then do you go to a tribunal? That's the part that we'll be talking about after we take this quick break. Let's go into the break reminding you about Showmax. For as low as 700 and how much? 760 shillings. Subscribe to Showmax. Per month.
Yes.
760 a month. Subscribe to Showmax and you get to access all this premium content. We've been talking about crime and justice, and soon we'll be hosting some of these stars in crime and justice, where we will have a red carpet here. So Alfred Munywa and Sarah Hassan are the key lead male and female actors. Detective McKenna, Sarah Hassan, Detective Silas, Alfred Munywa, and their boss, DCI boss Kebo Makbul Mohammed, has various other actors in it. And it's a very interesting drama that looks at crime and justice and administration of justice, the investigations. Then they go to the director of prosecutions and the director of prosecutions and what they do, and then they go to court. It's very interesting. It's basically like looking at those crime and justice drama series from abroad. Very good production, done locally. Season 2 coming up shortly. Season 1 was a resounding success. 28 minutes to 8.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play.
Smoking shisha and releasing things on your smoke like a Subaru. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. And you want God to give you a man who has a mission and a vision.
You may create an illusion of, because he's younger, he's interested in me or he likes me, but he's using me.
Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
The Adults in the Room.
The Easter weekend is finally here. If you are looking for a good way to relax and unwind without leaving the city, join me, Olivia Otieno, on 00 Direct this Saturday from 10 a.m. and find out more about the Movenpick Hotel and Residences and their plans to give you an extraordinary weekend and how you can get a discount courtesy of SpiceFM.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
And get to know more about your skin type.
So
and
there are
how
some parts of Nairobi that have experienced some showers overnight, and there are some parts that will be experiencing some rain overnight during the day. Partly cloudy day in Nairobi, highs of 26 and lows of 16. It's raining in Mombasa finally. Rain showers at 32 and lows of 25. Malindi, same. Light rains today in Malindi, highs of 32 and lows of 27. Similar case happening in Nyeri, light rains at 25 and lows of 15. Nakuru, clear skies at 27, lows of 15. Kisumu, mostly clear skies at 30, lows of 20. Kakamega, clear skies at 27, lows of 14. Eldoret, clear skies at 29 and lows of 16. Kampala, Uganda, mostly clear skies at 26 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, 24. Rain showers at 30, lows of 24. Kinshasa, mostly clear skies at 33 and lows of 23. Lagos, Nigeria, Ndu will tell us when she lands, but highs of 32, lows of 26. How's it going to look like in Johannesburg? Clear skies today at 21 and lows of 10. London, clear skies at 20 and lows of 8. And New York, waking up to clear skies, highs of 20, lows of 14. In Beijing, China, it's a sunny day, sunny afternoon, highs of 20, lows of 8.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Okay, so we know that there is traffic in Kitengela and people who are seeking to fuel their vehicles and queuing at petrol stations looking to just get a liter of fuel. No fuel has been delivered yet, but people are queuing, waiting. Ikikuja itatupata. This is the same thing that's happening across the country and especially in various parts of the city. We are seeing that causing traffic on some parts. Langata Road, Lusaka Road, Uhuru Highway and Mombasa Road roundabout. Traffic snarl up only because there's a petrol station there and people are queuing to get into the petrol station. The same thing is happening at Bellevue. There's a traffic snarl up because people are trying to queue into the petrol station. Bagathi Way, similar, there's a huge snarl up as you head towards Ngong Road roundabout. And Thika Road coming towards town is not looking so bad today, by the way. Even Kiambu Road is actually not bad at all. Just coming into the slight snarl up at Pangani, this is where Muthaiga Road and Kiambu Road and Thika Superhighway all merge and emerge as one road called Muranga Road. That is not looking so bad. Jogoo Road is crazy at the usual stops. This is in Makadara coming towards town. Jogoo Road also coming towards the Lusaka roundabout at City Stadium. But nothing major to report. If there's anything, SpiceFMKE is our Twitter handle.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Someone is asking on Twitter. So, they had paid for a goat in Shags. Plan goat to be slaughtered over Easter. Now, not many people are going home for Easter because fuel. So they're asking, Sasa, hiyo mbuzi, what happens? Big issues. You see, there's a spillover of issues. And you're saying that we have a tribunal that deals with fuel prices and fuel issues, rather, petroleum sector. So what kind of people lodge their disputes there? Is it industry players or do consumers also go to the tribunal?
Okay, thank you, Eric. For instance, the Energy and Petroleum Tribunal deals with decisions of EPRA.
Okay.
So the first port of call for a consumer is EPRA. Kenya power prices, fuel prices. The person must first lodge a complaint to EPRA, and then EPRA makes a decision, and you can appeal the decision of EPRA now to the Energy and Petroleum Tribunal. So there must be an interaction with EPRA first for you to actually go to the Energy and Petroleum Tribunal.
So do ordinary consumers go to the tribunal?
Yes.
Say just somebody who feels, no, power costs are too high.
Yes.
So they go to the tribunal?
Yes, they do.
Are there such ongoing, or you may not have the details at present?
For coming to the tribunal? All tribunals are on e-filing. You remember in 2020 when COVID came, the judiciary went digital, and we started using technology to dispense justice.
Yes.
All the tribunals conduct virtual sittings mostly, except for those that the clients may not access the digital space, like rent restriction. So every other tribunal is on e-filing. So you must sign up first as an individual or as an organization to file your matters, and that is e-filing at court. At court.to.ke. That is on our website. Once you sign up and the steps are there, you can follow the steps on e-filing, and you're able to receive. But if you're really, really stuck, you can come to where the Energy Tribunal is. It's at Forodha House, where our offices are, at 4th floor in Forodha House, which is at Community. The former income tax house.
I see.
Yeah.
So you have to go and create an account on the e-filing portal for you to then start accessing the services.
Absolutely.
It doesn't recognize the e-citizen information. If I have an e-citizen account, do I have to go and open another one here for court?
I think the integration is still ongoing. I think that discussion between the judiciary and other players in the sector is still ongoing. But currently we are doing it through the e-filing. You have to file a matter through the e-filing portal in the judiciary.
Okay. You're saying, so this is meant to simplify and also expedite matters that don't need to go to the High Court.
Yes.
So if I go to the e-filing portal, do I need to file like the way, you go to court and I don't know, there's a whole, this is a matter, so-and-so as a plaintiff versus so-and-so as defendant, whereas, where to, wherefore, it has been determined therein, therefore?
Not really. There are two ways to do it. First, you can actually write a letter, and you do it on e-file. You can even send it on email, and when it becomes a dispute, when you say Kenya Power has overbilled me to the tune of so much, I wish to lodge a complaint, that letter will be converted into an e-file, even by the staff at the registry. So even if you send an email, or you send it as a letter on e-file without having the where to, wherefore, the staff at the registry, that's their job to convert that dispute into an e-file that can actually now be heard by a panel of members. So the rules of procedure of tribunals are fairly relaxed.
Okay.
In very, very specialized cases where you have big players, for instance, if you have competition tribunal where you're merging, if for instance, Standard Group is merging with Nation, for instance, those are mergers and acquisitions. Those are very big players. They are required to articulate their issues in a more concise, and they have lawyers, and they're represented. If you're represented, we expect that the matter will be, framed in a manner that actually discloses the course of action. If I'm unrepresented, I could come with a letter and say, this is what the dispute is. This is what I want to tell the tribunal. And you'll not be turned away because the format is wrong, or you have not written, I am a male defendant of 20 years of wherever. We are going to ask you just the normal details. What's your contact? Where do you live? What is the dispute? And we have developed standard forms. You can fill in those, and they become part of what the dispute it is that you want determined.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's got to be simplified. We see in court, you go to court and you're told, first of all, jurisdiction. Second, the case is knocked out on technicalities. You did not file, I don't know what. There was no affidavit. There was no witness statement. So this one, you don't require any of that.
If you're going to claim something against somebody, definitely you're required to produce evidence. If I come and say Kenya Power overbilled me, how do you as an adjudicator, or how do I as a member of a tribunal know that you are overbilled? You have to produce the receipt. You have to show the billing. So those things are not dispensed with. It's just the manner in which that it's done. it is, you sometimes in court you have to make a written application, you file it, you serve to produce that evidence. In tribunals it could be different because the party is across the aisle and they're like, no, we have the receipts here. Then you produce them. So there is not that mode of keeping on making applications, the other party to respond with preliminary objections and things like that. So the production of evidence is faster because if I'm a member of a cooperative, if I'm a member of a SACCO, and I say, you took my deposits, and the SACCO chair or whoever runs the SACCO is across the aisle, they're asked immediately, is this person a member? Do you have the register? And they are told, come with the register. And that's dispensed with at that hearing. So those issues of application and then, no, we oppose production, that doesn't happen.
Seeking adjournments left, right, and center.
No, that doesn't happen. In a span of 3 months, usually tribunals have dispensed with their matters.
What exactly does the Secretariat do to ensure that the citizens of this country know about all these services that are offered by this large diversification?
Okay. Yes. That's a very, very good question. One of the biggest challenges, apart from funding, which is a challenge to judiciary generally, is public awareness of the existence of tribunals. Majority of the tribunals that I have mentioned, as I've said, were run as departments of the ministry. Tribunals are there to enforce department policy, of government policy. And then when a dispute arises between the makers of the policy and the people who are actually implementing that policy, then tribunals come in. The new constitution then came in with issues of access to justice, impartiality, and you've heard of an act of parliament called the Fair Administration Act, where you actually have to be very, very particular about how procedural fairness, before you make an administrative decision that affects the rights of people, you must have procedural fairness, meaning you have to give people a chance to explain themselves, be heard before you make an adverse decision against them. So in terms of public awareness, we are really haven't had that much public awareness on tribunals. Most people are not aware that they exist because the transitioning has just started happening as recently as 2015. This is the time we are putting in structures. That's why I'm here to, let Kenyans know that there are tribunals in Kenya that can hear their matters, and they are specialized, and they are working, and they are ready to hear Kenyans' disputes.
From the perspective of the tribunals, what do you look at and then determine and say to yourself, we have succeeded, we have done a good job?
I don't think it would be really us. It would be the customers to tell us whether we are doing a good job, and they're normally customer satisfaction surveys. But one of the internal ways to do that as a tribunal, if I was sitting in a tribunal or even when administering tribunals, is the appeal success rate. How many times are your decisions appealed against, and how many times do those succeed? So you're looking at if your customers are, after you make a decision, if your customers are always on appeal and the court is always allowing that appeal, then that would speak to questions of, are you doing very well in terms of administering justice or grasp of the issues? That would be one of the identifiers. The other identifiers is the number of complaints that you receive from customers in terms of service delivery. Are you receiving the service that you wanted or you requested? Then if the number of complaints keeps spiking, then there's a problem in terms of the way the tribunals are run. And that would actually come to us for us to make sure that those gaps are filled.
I ask this question because when you talk about dispute resolution,
yes,
and the levels at which disputes arise and the levels at which they need to be resolved, and what in my mind appears to be a certain very litigious position that Kenyans seem to have taken, where everything needs to go to court, even those that don't need to. If people do not understand what is, or don't know what is available to address the issues that they have, funding notwithstanding, are there other arms of government that you could latch onto who would do a better job? I'll give an example of what I mean. Something goes to the police, they enter it on the OB. Is it possible for that arm of government to direct people, because they get very many cases firsthand? Is it possible for them to direct people and say, you know, folks, this particular matter that you brought here,
go to tribunal.
Go to tribunal, and the tribunal is found here, or go to this and go to the other.
That's true. The Rent Restriction Tribunal and Business Premises Tribunal, one of the biggest partners they have are the police stations. That's the first port of call. Where if you're being evicted by your landlord or your tenant is not paying rent, sometimes the landlord starts at the police station, telling the OCS or the police, these are tenant, they have refused to pay rent, and the police is, because usually eviction notices are issued the police are usually involved in the eviction. Or not evicting, so they know those things. The other tribunals, for instance, let's talk about industrial property tribunal. They are so technical in terms of the matters they deal with that the awareness is only limited to that sector only. So if you're patent holders, if you're utility designers, if you're manufacturers, you're the only stakeholders within that space. So the stakeholders are so identifiable, and those are the people you actually go to. If you look at aviation, the sector that you're dealing with is a sectoral specific, very, very specific people, so that the transport sector will not benefit from the aviation tribunal awareness, because their matters are not necessarily handled there. The transport sector will be going to the Transport Licensing Appeals Board. So the sectoral awareness is there. And I can tell you within the last maybe 3 years that the Secretariat has been in existence, we've seen a huge spike of cases being filed. As we speak right now, the tribunals that we run in judiciary, because there are about 20, we have a caseload of over 25,000 cases across all the tribunals, which was like they were less than 10,000 when we took over. So the spike is really going on and on. So people are becoming more aware based on what the outcomes are, the speed, and the fact that now there's semblance of order. There used to be a lot of people didn't know, where do I go? Do I go here? Do I go here? With the development of systems in the judiciary, something has happened, and there's a huge, huge spike. So you will find Communication and Multimedia Appeals Tribunal was just operationalized in 2017 when judiciary started. There was a previous tribunal that was not necessarily so all-encompassing. And they have now a spike of cases, and they are sitting every week. Every week they sit to hear matters. So the awareness there but needs to be increased.
I have to ask, of all these 38 tribunals, how widespread are they within our 47 counties?
Oh, they are not widespread. They are localized in Nairobi. The decentralization process is yet to take place. The only tribunals that have regional presence are the big three. We call them the big three. Like there you have the big five elephants, and we have the business premises.
Who are the judicial elephants?
Yes. Okay. Cooperative tribunal has regional offices. So the 8 regions, you remember the provinces? They are in those provinces: Kisumu, Kakamega, Nyeri, Mombasa, Meru. Those are regional offices, so you can actually go and file matters there. Business premises the same, and rent restriction the same. The rest of the tribunals actually do circuits. If you need to file matters across board, they do circuits. There's one tribunal that has had a very serious impact in the education sector. It's called the Education Appeals Tribunal. They hear appeals from the decisions of county boards of education across the 47 counties. And that's one of the tribunals we are looking to see, how do we spread the wings to make sure their presence is also at the counties. But that is going to have to happen for all the tribunals at the county level. But we first need a framework that governs all the tribunals to make sure that happens. Because the transition happened in the absence of a governance framework on appointments, qualifications, and just mainstreaming tribunal operations.
And once again, the usual suspect is to blame: funding.
It's a number of factors, but I wouldn't want to jeopardize the work that has been done. There's a bill in place. It's being discussed. It's multi-sectoral because tribunals are in all sectors, so it can't be one sector over the other. It is a whole coterie of people involved, government agencies, so it's work in progress, and it's going on very well.
Would I be right to say, Anne, that it's your mandate as head of the Tribunal Secretariat to ensure that these tribunals have presence across the country, that everybody can then easily access the services of these tribunals?
Absolutely, it is.
How long till you get this job done?
I would love to do the job tomorrow, Eric, if Parliament would give us the money to do the job tomorrow. We would be in the counties tomorrow. Let's take
How much do you need? I know a guy.
You know a guy.
Who knows a guy?
Yes.
Introduce me to your guy. Tribunals funding comes with judiciary funding. So if judiciary funding is not to the extent that was requested, then the funding comes, it keeps being slashed across board.
That's okay. And
Yeah.
what is your budget? What is your budget to actually get the tribunals working as optimally as they should?
Give me about 5 billion.
Per year.
Yes.
And
We'll work something out.
And you'll be good.
I'll be good.
5 billion every year.
Yes.
Initially to set up
Just the setup
offices and all.
infrastructure.
And so this will run for 3 years and then you'll be good. And then after that, you reduce the budget.
We'll reduce the budget to recurrent.
Okay.
And we can do 1.2.
How much of that have you requested for in the judiciary budget this year?
This year we did about 800 million.
Why?
In terms of infrastructure.
Why did you request for 800 million when you know that your need is 5 billion?
Because budgets are incremental. You have to also look at your absorption levels. You may not absorb that kind of money in 1 year.
Okay.
So you have to be realistic on the requests that you make.
Okay.
So if you get 800 million, with the optimal utilization, with membership, you are able to absorb so much.
So what are you going to do with 800 million if you receive the full 800 million in the next budget?
The first thing is to identify space for tribunals, because right now tribunals are scattered all over Nairobi. Eric, if you have a NEMA issue, National Environment and Management Authority issue, you'll be going to South Sea. That's where the tribunal sits, the National Environment Tribunal. But then your landlord wants to evict you. So you have to run to Crescent House in town, which is very far next to Nairobi University. Then you remember, no, I'm a member of FKF or something, and I need to be at sports disputes. It's at an SSF house. So you start running around town in a circle and you don't know where to, So you start looking for, could you hold my brief here, then hold my brief here? So the first thing we have to do, and the budgets we are looking for first, is a tribunals plaza, to house tribunals where, when you enter the High Court in Milimani...
It's a one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. It has everything.
Okay.
When you enter Milimani High Court, you're able to access all the courts at once.
Okay.
So you don't have to, run
Keep
around.
hopping up and
yes.
down. So that is what you've requested for in this next year's budget.
Financial year.
And the next financial year has a judiciary fund now, which is money going to be controlled by the judiciary.
Yes.
So if you get this, you're saying that within 12 months from June 2022, by June 2023, all tribunals should ideally be housed in one place.
That is if you get it. And I know we haven't, so you've seen the supplementary,
Eric,
you've
should
seen
we
the
go
budget.
and see those guys who take 2 billion every day from
we'll talk to them.
Yeah.
Perhaps. So funding is a real issue, and it's something that we really should take seriously. It is our greatest impediment to access to justice. The greatest impediment.
I'm stuck at a point where, look, you're asking for 800 million shillings from the judiciary. The judiciary has a budget. If they give you, say, 60% of that,
yes,
what would you do with it? And how can we say that the tribunal secretariat absorption rate is so good that we can actually move them to the next stage?
The next level. You have to look at very many factors. So there's what 800 million would be development budget, then there's recurrent budget. But that's a combined budget for 800 million. Normally, you will not get perhaps 60% because the kitty that is shareable is so small. You'll probably get maybe 40% of that, and so you only deal with the recurrent costs of actually moving, making sure people are sitting and hearing Kenyans.
Day-to-day activities.
Yes, actually until you get the actual money that you request for, you're not able to move forward. It's a real issue. Perhaps tufanye kamchango.
Tuite kaharambe ya kusaidia. We cannot do that when we have 3.3 trillion shilling budget. These are the jokes that we talk about. Anne, we thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for listening to me.
Asante
It's
sana.
a pleasure.
Anne Asuga is the registrar and head of Tribunal Secretariat. We've been talking about tribunals and what tribunals do to ease access to justice and their role in that. Again, what's the Chief Justice's plan on justice, on social justice?
Social transformation through access to justice.
There you go. STUDGE.
Yes.
Social transformation through access to justice.
Yes.
We are also talking about another social transformation through access to water. And we are asking you, go to Naivas today, buy Colgate. Colgate is working with Well Boring, a UK NGO, to drill wells in several counties, some 7 counties. I will tell you about which counties those are. If you do that, part of those proceeds will go to drilling wells and 30 extra wells to be dug by the end of this year. Keep it right here for more. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newsline Dennis Aseto. United Democratic Movement Party leader Ali Roba has faulted the stewards of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya lands for handling matters within the coalition party with disregard of the laid out mechanisms. Roba was speaking while issuing direct nomination tickets to aspirants, pointed out that it appears like matters within the mega movement are being micromanaged by the Orange Democratic Movement Party, an affiliate party within the movement. He said the affiliate parties within the coalition party, led by Raila Odinga, are playing second fiddle, yet they are equal partners. Busia Jubilee gubernatorial candidate Lucas Meso has appealed to the voters of the area to consider personality and candidate's track record and not political vehicle ahead of the upcoming general elections. Meso, who is the former managing director of Agricultural Finance Corporation, is seeking to use the ruling party to replace the outgoing Sospita Ojamong, who is exiting the stage after serving his 2 constitutional limits. He said he is rallying behind former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in the presidential race, for the remaining optimistic of clinching the hotly contested seat, which has attracted several aspirants. Now, the Mombasa United Democratic Alliance team reached a consensus and picked former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar as the party's gubernatorial candidate. Hamisi Mwaguya will contend for the Senate seat, while Fatma Bakari Barayan will contend for the women representative position. The DP said the parliamentary slots will be filled by Mohammed Ali of Nyali, Baraka Mid Kisauni, Karisa Nzai Mnyika Jomvu, Isaac Malila Changamwe, Omar Shalom Veta, and Mohammed Mohima in Likoni. The United Democratic Alliance Party Disciplinary Committee has summoned Nomba Nyaga and John Mushiri to appear before it following violence and burning of electoral materials on the eve of party primaries in Embu County. The committee, in a letter to the two, cited a complaint filed against them relating to the arson and destruction of party poll materials, as well as incitement of the public. The two leaders are now required to appear before the committee Saturday at 9 a.m. for the hearing of the matter at the Hustlers Center in Nairobi. Machakos Governor aspirant Nzioka Waita has called upon the electorate to rise above party politics and vote in leaders based on ability to offer efficient service delivery. Speaking in the Thini ward, where he kicked off his tour of Masinga sub-county, Waita warned against interference by political parties in the region, saying Machakos residents have a democratic right to elect their preferred leaders. The Chama cha Uzalendo party leader pledged to provide solutions to critical issues such as proper healthcare services, water shortage, and efficient roads. And the World Bank has projected the sub-Saharan African economy to grow 3.6% this year from 4% recorded last year on account of emerging COVID-19 variants, global inflation, supply disruptions, and climate shocks. The bank says the region's recovery from 2020 recession triggered by coronavirus pandemic is being pulled back by the rising global commodity prices, which are increasing at a faster pace since the onset of the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. The prevailing war in Eastern Europe has borne negative impact on African economies, which are heavily dependent on fertilizer, wheat, corn, and seed oil imports, whose prices continue to skyrocket as a result of the conflict and may be halted should the situation persist. Russia and Ukraine are the world's top exporters of food staples, with the former being the world's largest exporter of fertilizer. Now, a 62-year-old man accused of shooting 10 people on the New York subway was taken to custody and now faces a federal terror charge following a day-long manhunt in a city set on edge by the attack. Frank James, who is suspected of detonating 2 smoke canisters on the train as it pulled into Brooklyn Station before firing into the crowd, was stopped by officers on a Manhattan street and arrested without incident. Announcing the charges against James, U.S. District Attorney Breon Peace said he could face a life sentence if convicted of violating a federal prohibition on terrorist and other violent attacks against mass transportation systems. Michael J. Driscoll, the assistant director in charge of FBI's New York office, also characterized the shooting as a terrorist attack on mass transit. And U.S. President Joe Biden has announced an $800 million military aid package for Ukraine as international prosecutors declared the war-torn Western ally a crime scene amid fears of a massive revamped Russian assault. The announcement came with the Russian military threatening to strike Ukraine's command centers in the capital Kyiv if Ukrainian troops continue to attack Russian territory. The warning sparked alarm in Ukraine's largest city as Moscow was believed to be refocusing its war aims, withdrawing from Kyiv after failing to recapture it and shifting attention to the south and east. This is News. I am Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
So what's happening? What's happening is that if you're on the road, you have fuel. If you don't have fuel, you're queuing at a petrol station. And that is the way it shall be, and the people shall say amen. What is happening on Jogoo Road coming towards town? There's some traffic snarl up at the usual places in Makadara coming towards the Likoni Road junction, and then as you approach the City Stadium roundabout, but it's not so bad. Thika Road this morning is actually not looking bad. I think people have gotten to that point where kama kuna mafuta and happy, because as you look at Thika Road, this is 8 a.m. coming towards town. It's not looking bad. Look at that city. And Kiambu Road as well is actually not looking so bad. So this area of Pangani that usually stretches all the way past Survey at 8 a.m. is looking clear on Monday, Thursday.
Which tells you that people have left their vehicles
at
home.
Yes.
Yes.
Traffic situation on Gong Road coming towards town is not bad, but also now approaching the Ring Road Kilimani Junction. There's a bit of a snarl up there, but nothing major really to report this morning. If there is, please let us know. SpiceFM KE is our Twitter handle. Tag us and we'll announce to everybody.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 on the 14th day of March 2022, March until the president launches April. We are moving into a conversation about the cost of electricity in the country. We know that we should be expecting the cost of power to come down at the end of this month, March. Before then, it hasn't happened, so we'll know why it's not happening. We'll have our guest in the studio. Before I introduce him, City, the day's proverb.
From Gabon. When the bee comes to your house, let her drink beer.
When the bee comes to your house, let her drink
there. Let her drink beer. You may want to visit the bee in their house one day. Yes.
So, be hospitable.
Please.
Be kind.
Be kind.
To that nagging, buzzing bee.
Threatening. Because most people see bees, their hands start flapping.
Yes.
Little knowing that if they simply stood still, the bee would just go along its merry way. Yes.
Wow. And now, you said the bee.
Yes.
Let the bee drink beer, or the wife in the house drink beer. And why is the bee a female?
Serve the bee. Okay, so when the bee comes to your house, katia yeye pombe, chai, uji, whatever.
Yeah.
Serve the bee.
You mean
something.
when you go to visit you mean one day you're going to go to the bee's house also. But anytime you find the bee come to your house, they usually look for something sweet and land on it.
Yeah.
If you have a glass, they'll be on the rim of the glass, isn't it? Yes. Now, most people will not allow the bee to do that. They'll want to chase away the bee.
Yeah.
We're saying, just let the bee go about its business. It'll eventually go away. One day you may need to go and visit the bee.
I'm not sure whether I would want to go to visit the hive, but anyway.
But do you?
But people go to visit the hive.
And you know, yes, even if you don't, they go on your behalf.
Yes.
Yes.
So that you don't get stung when you go to the hive,
Yes.
start by being good when the bee comes to you.
I think that makes sense.
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
If we all became kind to one another, we'd get free honey.
And there'll be no fuel. And there'll be no fuel shortages.
And there'll be no fuel shortages. It's a conversation we're going to have now with Isaac Nereva, our friend, electricity billing expert. He's here with us in the studio. Let's just remind you, on the 12th day of December 2021, at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi, newly refurbished Uhuru Garden, wearing military regalia, President Uhuru Kenyatta, His Excellency President and Commander-in-Chief of Kenya's Defense Forces, delivered his speech. And he concluded with this: fellow Kenyans, ladies and gentlemen, now I will end my address by keeping a promise I made. By doing what? Keeping a promise
he made.
On the 20th of October 2021, I directed the Ministry of Energy to fast-track implementation of the recommendations of the Presidential Task Force on Power Purchase Agreements. I am pleased to note that the pathway to reduce the cost of electricity by over 30% is on course. In honor of this pledge to the nation, and in response to the concerns over the high cost of electricity raised by both individual consumers and enterprises, I am pleased to announce to the nation that the reduction of the cost of electricity will be implemented in two tranches of 15% each, with the first 15% achieved through initial actions focusing on system and commercial losses to be reflected in the December bills, and a further 15% reduction in the first quarter of 2022. In realizing the second tranche of the reduction in power bills, I note that the Ministry of Energy has initiated engagements with independent power producers aimed at renegotiation of power purchase agreements so as to give better value for money for consumers. I urge the power producers to demonstrate goodwill as we seek to make our energy sector a greater catalyst of our national development. The President made this pledge. In the first quarter of 2022, there should be a further 15% reduction. This is following the reduction that should have happened, should have reflected in the December bills. We know it didn't, but then sometime in January, some 15% reduction was announced. So here we are. That's why we say it is not the 14th of April. We are still in the first quarter of the year. So we're in the 14th of March. Until that day, that EPRA or the Minister for Energy or the chairperson or the MD of Kenya Power or whoever, or even the President himself, announces this 15% reduction in power.
We are still in
quarter one.
Well, now, what I want you to understand is, number one, let me start by saying that there are a few things that we need to understand. First of all, we want to give credit to the government, but we also need to understand that in 2013, between 2013 to 2017, the government had promised to reduce the cost of electricity. And for sure, we were expecting some reduction. Now, between 2013 and 2017, there was an increase by 20% instead of a
reduction.
Then, between 2017 to 2021 December, there was an increase by 22%. So indeed, the whole increase was 42%. So even without really...
This is in the first, how many years?
In the first 5 years.
Of Jubilee?
Yes.
Okay.
There was an increase by average of 20%. The next one, the last 4 years, has been an increase of 22%. So that's a 42% increase. Now, if we want to be taken back to 2013, before we get promised about a reduction, we first need to get a reduction of 42%. Now, well and good, they were trying to attempt to reduce by 33%. We got something they called 15%, which is neither here nor there, because, of course, the 15% was supposed to be based on the price in September, which was 24. But then when they reduced, it was already 25.almost 9. So never mind, that was a good effort. But then what was supposed to be understood is that was it supposed to be sustainable? And what we are saying as a society is that is not sustainable. Why? Because...
What is not sustainable?
That reduction is not sustainable. Beyond 1 year.
You cannot sustain a 15% reduction.
It cannot. Beyond 1 year.
Please explain why.
I'll tell you the reason. One, we really appreciate that, first of all, people are not made to understand what was reduced. But I'll tell them one thing, that there was a reduction of taxation on forex and inflation. That reduction resulted to 1% reduction. So if we are talking about a 3%, that is 1%. Then we are still getting taxation on the consumption and something called the fuel cost. So those are the two things that are now being taxed. Now, that reduction, we can be able to track and say, yes, from now onwards, we are not taxing forex and inflation. Good enough. What else was reduced? We are sure of one thing. Before we even started this discussion, Kenya Power was complaining that it needs some increase by 20%. So now, how did they manage to reduce? So what we have found out, or what we are trying to analyze, is that this reduction was funded. Funded by what? Like there is some subsidy that was given to run for about a year, and then this government will be out. Then the next government is going to sort itself out.
Now, you've lost us. So there was a 15% reduction announced.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
In the cost of power.
Yes.
Initially, just like the president had said, this was going to be in reviewing systemic efficiencies and all. So where did the 15% come from? So you're saying first, forex and inflation, no taxation. That saved something.
Good.
Where else?
Nowhere else we can tell. And we are also technical people. Let me tell you, when we talk of that there's going to be a reduction because of system losses addressing, system losses only account for 5.85 shillings. I mean, what is affected by system losses?
Explain what system losses are.
System losses, as I have always explained, is where Kenya Power loses power while trying to take it.
While trying to transmit it.
To transmit it to the people.
And what causes these losses? And how is that?
It's because of the transmission lines. Because
if
of
they are faulty.
If not really faulty, you must have some drop. You must have some losses along transmission.
You must.
So this is technically how it will happen.
And in fact, it's allowed to be 14.9%.
Okay.
But now it was gazetted to be 24.5, I guess. I mean, they normally experience 24.5, but again, EPRA allowed them to take it up to 19.9. Now, the 19.9 is affected on the fuel cost, inflation, forex, and warma. The total cost for those four items is 5.85. Now, reduce, right? No, 5.85 Kenya shillings per kilowatt. Yeah.
Per kilowatt.
Yeah, that is the total. Now, if this is 5.85, you want to now say you reduce by 10% of that cost.
Of this 5.8?
Yes. What is that 10%? How much can you get? Even if you reduce from 24.5, you bring it to 14.9, they agreed. That's around 10%, isn't it? So 5.85, or the cost that is normally affected. If you put like 10%, are you really going to get a 3%?
Well, let me ask you this question. Yes. Simply as a layman.
Yes.
I get a bill. They usually itemize it.
Yes.
Very clearly. What really is the cost of power if you remove all the deductions that the government lumps onto it?
Right now, it has always been 15.8. Let's talk about what was there currently.
15.8.
For the let's talk about the domestic ordinary.
Yes.
There are about 9 tariffs. We normally concentrate, and what the society really aims at doing is to at least bring the person who is paying the highest to at least be considered. I know there are also people who are paying around 17 shillings and all that. Those are domestic lifeline. Let's not go into those details. But let's talk about, even the president may not have known that there are all those tariffs, by the way, because he said they are going to reduce the cost of power from 24 shillings to 16 shillings.
Okay.
So now the reduction was effected not from 24 shillings.
So what in effect was he reducing?
He was reducing, I guess
the overall cost, what was he reducing?
He was reducing, according to even this report, it was from 24 shillings to 16 shillings. Of kilowatt hour, Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
And that is only one tariff out of 9. So it follows then that the same percentage reduction should follow on all the other tariffs.
Then you get a wholesome reduction.
Yes.
But if you reduce on one of the 9,
yes,
and the others are constant, then in essence you haven't really reduced anything.
Actually, all of them were reduced. It was taken that it's the same percentage to be applied on all.
But was it applied?
It was.
So we actually had a genuine reduction.
We had a genuine reduction.
Yes.
Of 15%. According to the society, it's around 13. Because we want to start, the reduction should have started from 24 and not from 25.9. So, but we never mind, we can't complain too much. But the issue is, all of them were reduced. But how sustainable is that reduction? Other than this 1% we got from the reduced taxation.
But
what else?
But driver, what then makes you say that it is not sustainable? What is it about this reduction that is untenable?
It's only that sometimes the public is not inquisitive enough. But we should have asked, this Kenya Power that was complaining, how comes they have managed to reduce, and yet they are still making a profit? Now, let me tell you, what the government does, and it's the same thing that it did with the fuel, that you come here and you say, the citizens want a reduction from this to this. So we are going to get some money and give that person who's selling that commodity or that service. We give them this money so that they can cover that reduction for the time being. That reduction cannot go beyond 1 year. And expect some further gazettement of prices. Immediately after the new government takes over.
No, but we don't need to wait. We've seen fuel increases. That we've already seen. So,
is it possible to reduce the system inefficiencies at Kenya Power, which would then actually get us to realize actual and long-lasting drop in cost of fuel?
It is possible, but I've always said that it takes a lot of change of infrastructure. It also takes a lot of rethinking about the last mile connectivity. I have always said the last mile connectivity is one thing that has brought a lot of problems. Because in you trying to transmit very little power from your substation to a person who is going to consume very little, you are losing more than how much you are going to sell. That is a problem. But again, during these Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs by the UN, it has actually documented that every country must have a deliberate attempt to reduce the cost of power, but at the same time also increase access. Now, that balance is a bit sensitive.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I get a bill,
yes,
what portion of that bill comprises taxes?
Around 58%, depending on it varies from one tariff to another, but 58%.
58%.
Yes.
If we round it off, 60.
Yes.
So 60% of my bill is taxes.
58% is the consumption. So the balance of 42
is the taxes.
Is the taxes.
Now, so what you're telling me in essence,
yes,
since it's the government who decides what they're going to tax and how much they're going to tax.
Yes.
So in reality, they were able to actually reduce the cost of electricity.
Did they reduce the tax?
My point.
They didn't reduce. And that's why I'm saying
point.
It should have been gazetted that this is what has been reduced so that it is sustainable. Even when the next government comes, they will be able to understand that this is where we are. So anything else is just going to be funded. Because even as a society, nobody has come to tell us that this is what we have done.
You see why I raised that issue, Eric? Why I raised that issue, Mr. Nairobi, is this. I am looking at our electricity cost. Yes. Some of our electricity is produced by generators.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
They use fuel.
They use fuel, yes.
Now, It's a song and dance that has gone on for the longest time. Rates that were supposed to be paid to these people, whether they're producing power or not, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
KenGen, all the power producing units that we have, whether it is solar, whether it is
wind,
whatever.
Yes.
In all these discussions, the one thing that we know is a constant is that some fuel is used. Now, whenever fuel is used, the mwananchi, that is us,
Yeah.
we pay for fuels in more ways than one. Where am I going in my discussion? I'm talking about double taxation. If you increase the price of fuel, you are going to ensure that I'm paying more for the food I eat because it has to be transported.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay more for transportation. I'm going to pay more for everything.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I am going to pay more for electricity. But I am paying for the same thing. Meaning, the taxation that you're talking about, in reality, to me, we're talking about power, but the burden of taxation is infinitely more than that 42% that you're talking about.
Yeah.
To the common mwananchi.
You're right, because in fact, one thing we are also concerned as a society is the fuel cost has always been in fact, in November it was 4.21 Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour. Now, December, January, February, March has been 4.63, something that has never happened. So, since it was stuck at that high of 4.63, it means that perhaps it should have even come to 3.6 something, 2.5 something. But you see that now they decided that it's 4.63 and we are stuck there. Why? And the generation by thermos keeps on varying every month.
Explain something to me. Do we produce enough electricity to meet the needs of the consumption in this country?
Yes, we do. In fact, we have some excess.
So, if I'm to use the simple laws of supply and demand, it means we have more supply than we have demand.
Yes,
now,
exactly.
Those laws dictate, therefore, that the prices should actually drop. How then, in our case, do we have the converse happening, where the prices are going up, and yet the supply is more than the demand? How does this happen?
Because you only have one supplier.
You see, the challenge is that
market forces we talk about will introduce competition.
In fact, when you demand less and you have more surplus, that's the time you pay more, because you also have to pay those who are on standby. Yet it has to be divided by the consumed unit in a country.
Do you know that we are rewriting the laws of supply and demand in this country even as we go?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It is inverse in this country.
No. This is a country where the supply exceeds demand, and so it costs you more.
Yes. For electricity, that is the
yes.
case.
You say, and you're paying for the excess.
And by the way, it is the same the whole world. Yeah. When you don't utilize, like there's a time the German government was paying consumers to use power because it could have been more expensive for them not to use. There is such a case. So the whole world, if you have some installed capacity that you're not using, that becomes a problem.
You have investment, and you've got to pay for this investment.
Yes.
There's installed capacity.
Yes.
It is sitting there, and you've got to fund for it.
I understand it perfectly well.
So now here we are. But then also, if we look at all our installed capacities and the mix of our power, so we have, what's the biggest, hydro or geothermal?
I think geothermal is almost overtaking now.
So let's say geothermal.
Yes.
And then we go into hydro, and this is the water dams,
yes.
the Seven Forks and the others.
Yes.
And then we go into, is it wind?
There is wind.
That comes in next.
Yeah.
From Lake Turkana
wind turbines,
and the others.
Yes.
And then now we'll come into thermal and solar.
Yes.
So thermal and solar are small contributors to our energy mix.
Yes.
Our bigger energy mix is actually coming from renewables.
Yes.
Geothermal, water, wind.
And wind, yes.
Why is it that every time we talk about the cost of power, we then come in and say, oh, it's costing us so much because of the thermal generators? Why?
Well, you see, first of all, even those renewables are not very cheap. Especially, you would have expected wind to be the cheapest.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the way the PPAs were designed, and I think they will be looked at.
What is a PPA?
A PPA is power purchase agreement. You remember this report that was being done? I had come here when you were not around, and there was some power purchase agreements.
This is the task force that looked at the power purchase agreements.
Yes. And the recommendations by the PPA's task force, we said that whatever they had said, I think they lacked on one thing, to analyze the cost of what they are saying. Because if they were saying about the PPAs, and we say the PPAs can only reduce a very small percentage, even if you scrap them off, you stop buying power at 8.2, you start buying at 5.48 like Kenyan. We said there is a certain reduction that can come from there, and it was coming to around 12%. Now, you now come to reducing the transmission losses. You will get 3%. The maximum you can get is going to be 2.65, I guess. Yeah. So now, if you add 12, which is the PPAs, then you add the reduction as a result of transmission losses, which is 2.65%. Where else will you go? You can only go to taxation. I mean, so even when they were recommending, they should have said that the portion that we are trying to talk about of the bill on the PPAs, we can only get this amount. On these transmission losses, we are only going to get 2.65%. So we have recommended 33, but we can only see 15 here. And even these transmission losses is going to take about 5 years to at least address that, because it takes time.
But why 5 and why not 10? Or
well,
3?
For a good
7?
Performing government, is you just have to redo the infrastructure.
You're talking about the term of a presidency.
Yes. I always tie that, even most contracts for the politicians, it's supposed to be 5 years. So now, as a result, I would say that I give you 5 years. So because it is also being funded by a government, you have some structures that are also political. So give it 5 years. But now, that will be 2.65. Or rather, it's just the 10% of 5.85 shillings per kilowatt hour. That's the maximum. So now, even if they would have said, we remove the PPAs by these private producers, if you remove all of them and you are left with Kenyan alone, you could only reduce 12%. So now, if you have struck the PPAs, if then you have reduced the transmission losses, you have 15%. What is this other? They had not talked of any other that was substantial. So other than just taxation. And that's why I said, if there is it's not going to be a reduction on taxation, actually scrapping off, I will keep on coming here and saying that, the same. It will never happen.
It will never happen.
Even if you see that reduction, I'm telling you, and I am here, and I will come here again and I tell you, that reduction was artificial reduction.
It's not sustainable.
It is not sustainable.
It's a political statement.
Yeah. But for the 1%, I can defend that is going to be sustainable. The 1% as a reduction of avoiding taxing forex and inflation. Yeah.
It can only be sustainable, though, if the next administration comes and decides not to claw back on that. It just takes the government to decide, but I need money. Tax forex.
And by the way, let me tell you, in our own circles, we calculated and found that for Kenya Power to have effected this reduction for a year, there is something like 26 billion that was supposed to be funded. You see, it's easy for a government to do that. That for these people to keep quiet while we are in office, take this 26 billion.
Put some 26 billion there.
Put some 26 billion, and then for 12 months, these people will have sorted that. Then watanyamaza kidogo, because we have seen that this is not going to be possible. Then they told the task force team, now, Gordon Kihalangwa, go and find out how we are going to effect this. And then he goes there, and then they start explaining, you see, the maximum we can reduce on the transmission losses is going to be 2.65%. The maximum we can get from the PPAs is going to be 12%. Then he asked, what else? Then he's told, now nothing else. Then you will start sacking people. You need to lay off people in Kenya Power. This is not.
It is not sustainable. Let's take a break, City. Please. 28 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation. We're live on KTN Home, SpiceFM, and also on YouTube and Facebook. Having a conversation with Isaac Ndereva, who is an electricity billing expert and executive director of the Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya. We are talking about why we haven't seen the further reduction of 15% in the cost of power as promised by the president by the end of the first quarter of the year. We are in March, we have said. We shall remain in March until we see the reduction of power bills. But we are also seeking to understand where would this reduction come from. Keep it here for that conversation coming up. Good morning.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
This Easter, the Movenpick Hotel and Residences Nairobi is giving you an extraordinary weekend.
Yeah!
Join us for a family Easter brunch and indulge in a delightful selection of dishes prepared by our executive chef Aris and his team of culinary experts with complimentary pool access to a big outdoor pool to cool you off in this Nairobi heat. Charges are from 4,500 per person or 5,500 per person. Includes gin cocktails and 2,250 for kids between 6 and 12 years and complimentary for 5 years and below. Come, dine, relax and enjoy great views of Westlands with entertainment courtesy of a live band with lots of kids activities including Easter treasure hunt, egg decoration, Easter bunny and more. Call 0709 548 000 or email hotel.nairobi@movenpick.com to reserve your spot today.
Some people say I look much younger than I actually am. Want to know my secret? It's simple. Good nutrition. Take care of your body and it will take care of you. Join me, Jimmy Gathu, at the Westgate Mall on Saturday the 23rd of April for the Body and Mind Expo for a unique opportunity to meet some of the best nutritionists in the country who will be offering practical day-to-day advice on matters diet and nutrition. Email us at bodyandmind@standardmedia.co.ke to showcase your product. See you there.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Remember when Silas reminded McKenna?
There's different kinds of justice.
Prepare for the return of detective duo McKenna and Silas fighting to protect
And as we
their
talk about
lives as
crime
they
and justice,
discover
season 2 is coming up, and we'll see the drama and action go a notch higher as McKenna and Silas go up against a powerful and dangerous enemy. The show is also diving into McKenna's mysterious background and questioning Silas's moral conflict and his connection to his shifty networks. Also reprising their roles in season 2 alongside Hassan and Munyo is Makbul Mohammed, who is the DCI boss Kebo, Paul Ogola, who is the no-nonsense prosecutor Socorro, Brian Ogola, who is the resident pathologist Clive, Cormac Kinoti as McKenna's troublesome teenager Yaro, and Justine Mireshi as the defense lawyer Tobias. Season 2 also sees return of John Sibio Kumu as a powerful politician Barasa and new faces joining the cast such as Mombi Maina, Charles Ouda, Sheila Munyiva, Bilal Moura and Raymond Dofula, who has also acted in Queen Sono or The System. Season 2 of Crime and Justice coming on Showmax soon.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay, how is it going to look like in Nairobi? Nairobi is partly cloudy today, highs of 26 and lows of 16. Mombasa, rain showers, 32 highs and lows of 25. Malindi, light rains at 32, lows of 27. Kisumu, mostly clear skies at 30 and lows of 20. Nakuru City, clear skies at 27 and lows of 15. Nyeri, light rains at 25 and lows of 15. Kakamega, clear skies at 27 and lows of 14. Eldoret, clear skies at 29 and lows of 16. Kampala, mostly clear, 26, lows of 19. Lagos, Nigerian, mostly clear, 32, lows of 26. Dar es Salaam, rain showers at 30 and lows of 24. Johannesburg, clear skies at 21 and lows of 10. London, clear skies at 20 and lows of 8. Paris, where is Paris? It's disappeared from my screen. Okay, mostly cloudy at 21 and lows of 10. And Beijing, China, sunny at 20 and lows of 8.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay, so the situation has improved slightly and somewhat in South Sea. Maybe the petrol station that had fuel is no longer serving fuel because Mombasa Road is clear until you get to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout where there's a bit of snarl up. Langata Road is bad as you approach Mbagathi Way. No, Raila Odinga. Is it Raila Odinga Way? Raila Odinga Road? What's it called? Raila Odinga Way. Okay. So as you approach the Timor roundabout, there's a bit of a traffic snarl up. Thika Road is the one that's not looking bad at all today. In fact, Thika Road is clear. For the first time, you can say that at 8:30. Thika Road is clear coming to town. If there's anything that we ought to talk about and alert everybody else, please tag us on Twitter at SpiceFMKE.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It is 20 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation continues in the Situation Room this morning. Is Eric Latiff and CT Muga. Okoh is away for a couple of days. Our guest is Isaac Nereva. He's an electricity billing expert and executive director of the Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya. We are talking about why we don't see the drop in power prices as promised by the president. So the big issue here, even what the task force said, is we need to renegotiate with independent power producers.
Yes.
And then we're going to have a significant reduction. And the president pleaded with the IPPs to be patriotic and look at how much they can then renegotiate and drop their costs. But if you actually look critically, Isaac, at the PPPs, the bigger chunk of power production comes from Kengen.
Exactly.
And government has a stake in Kengen. Now, even when you go to geothermal, where there are some independent power producers, they have a link to Kengen. If you go to, there's a link to Kengen. Is it really possible to look at the independent power producers and see a reduction in power costs?
Thank you. I think you have analyzed that, and that is important to know that Kengen actually supplies the biggest portion. And indeed, it supplies at the last year's report we found was supplying at 5.48. But then because of the other IPPs, the price had gone up to 8.2 shillings per kilowatt hour. That is the price that they were selling to Kenya Power. Now, and we said even if we remove the IPPs that are selling to Kenya Power, other than the Kengen, the price is going to be 5.48. Or rather, if they renegotiate, the IPPs can only come to 5.48. Now, how much reduction is that?
That is the baseline set by Kengen anyway, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's also good to imagine that you can just tell them that we are not signing any PPA that is going to be beyond 5.48 shillings. Now, even if you bring it to 5, you're only going to get 3.2 shillings per kilowatt hour. What percentage is that? We said that is 12%. Now, hoping that that will happen, or rather, let's expect that that is what made us get a reduction of 15% that we got. Then we have closed the issue of the IPPs. Where else are we going? We said we are going to the system losses, technical and commercial losses. How much is that affecting us? It's only affecting 5.85 on the cost of electricity. So we can only manage to reduce from 24.5 to 14.9, approximately 10%. So 10% of 5.85 is 0.585 Kenya shillings. That is 2.65%. Where else can we go? I mean, unless we be given power for free. I mean, in terms of if Kenya Power is going to be given power for free.
If it's going to be given power by the producers.
Otherwise, it can only be taxation.
Is Kengen charging the same amount for what it generates using the old hydro dams and the same for what it's generating in the newly installed geothermal plants?
No, it doesn't charge the same. Yeah.
What is the most expensive Kengen power?
I'm not sure, but I would, of course, I expect it would be the Kipevu 1 and Kipevu 3, which is a thermal.
All right.
That would be the most expensive.
Why?
Of course, thermal is expensive.
It's burning the fuel oils.
You're burning fuel.
There's a reason why I'm asking the question. When you talk about the power producing entities and the contracts that we have with them,
yes,
there is talk of negotiation. It's one of the discussions that were held by this task force that were looking into these matters.
Yes.
Surely, from your perspective as an expert in this field, is it possible to be able to calculate what the cost of the investment was and over what period it is possible for them to have recovered what it is they put into it. Yes, an agreed amount of profit was there. It is understandable. But then there are circumstances that were not factored into this agreement, like COVID, like Russia, like Ukraine. There are many things. This prolonged drought. Now, many factors that I may not even understand can bring about a necessity to renegotiate and look at the reality of this. Now, when this task force got into working out whatever they were doing in order to try and rationalize and bring sanity into this situation, I'm certain they look into more things than even I can imagine. My question is this: is it possible for these contracts to be renegotiated, and is it possible for some of them to be actually terminated?
Well, these contracts run for 20 years. Let me start them. And when they are saying...
They're supposed to run for 20 years.
For 20 years.
Yes.
Now, and even if a plant, and they are structured in a way that even if a plant does not produce anything for the 20 years, there is still money to pay back because they are being paid on capacity charge. So that is...
I think you've gone to the heart of what I'm asking. Yes. I am asking, that is based on a certain understanding of how it is they're supposed to recoup the whatever
investment.
That I have understood that. That's why I started by asking, is there a way of determining whether that investment had been realized so that they are not at a loss? 20 years was a period that was determined as the period within which this could be done.
Yes.
But the reason why I'm asking the question is because it's unfortunate that very many such contracts in this country are usually fraught with things that we are not told about, and that the cost that we're even referring to don't necessarily relate to the reality of what it actually costs to do what we're being told is being done. That is really where I'm going with my question.
And I think you are right in what you are saying, because if the contracts, of course, I expect even the people who are investing in those power plants are expecting that much as we want to the payback period, we also need some profit.
Yep.
Now, even if they recouped the whole investment, they are now running on the profits, and even the profits are budgeted for. And you see, even when you expect some money in your pocket, much as it is your money, it is still has some budget you have allocated.
Yep.
So even if you tell them that you are going to forget about this profit, even if you have recovered your money, it's not going to be a very easy negotiating discussion. So even, and I am not even saying that it's not possible. I don't want to give them strength on the fact that we allow you not to agree. No, we are saying let them agree. But that discussion is another level, and we cannot, we cannot try to negotiate with them as a civil society organization. Ours is to just tell the government, this is what power is supposed to cost, and this is where we were at a certain time, this is where we are now, we need to get back to this. But now, even if they need to renegotiate, I would just pray that they consider all that, but I know most of them, of course, are selling power cheaper. Is only the capacity charge that is more. In fact, for example, even for a buy, it might be cheaper than Kenyan, but due to the capacity charge, eventually the average becomes higher.
I think we're getting to that realization, which should have been gotten by the task force, that it's not an easy conversation to have when you say, go and renegotiate. All right? Yeah. So let's say, for example, Lake Turkana Wind Power Project has an installed capacity of 310 megawatts.
Yes.
Are we taking 310 megawatts from Loyangalani? We are not. But they have already invested.
That's what we're being charged for.
They have already invested.
Yes.
That. So did you sign a contract and say, okay, put up a 310 megawatt capacity
yes.
plant?
Yes.
If I've already put it up, how can you come and start telling me, okay, now you've already... It's like telling the expressway people, do that elevated road, and then now start charging for one lane.
Yes.
By the way, for the wind, I think people need to get to understand, and not just people, maybe even the people who are trying to negotiate for that contract. Wind, when you talk of... Let me explain a bit about the Lake Turkana. It has got 365 turbines of 850 megawatt. Yeah? 850 kilowatt. That brings it to if you multiply that, you'll get 310 megawatt. Now, a wind turbine is designed that it is going to be 850 kilowatt at a speed of perhaps 12 meters per second of speed of the wind.
Yeah.
Now, the wind can't be 12 meters per second throughout. It will sometimes be 6, other times it will be something. So even if you are running all the 365 turbines, you can only be generating maybe 250. remember, there are times you need to schedule for maintenance.
Yes.
So they need to have negotiated on that the maximum we need you to be giving us is going to be 250. I am not sure how they negotiated, but people keep on thinking that 310 megawatt are supposed to be there and ready to be utilized. No.
Actually, I even think in my mind that there is a warehouse where you keep the 310.
No.
So if we use 200, we still have another
we
100.
don't have In fact, we utilize the maximum that we get from that wind. Yeah. So when there is wind, in fact, when it is that the wind turbines stop generating at, I think, 4 meters per second of this, 4 meters per second. Below that, it will not give anything. So at around 9 meters per second, maybe, or 12, based on the design, it will be giving the maximum of 850 kilowatt.
Yes.
Now, always we are in between 4 and 12. So anytime there is some intermittent kind of a supply. So even when you are signing a contract, they should have signed on the basis of we can only guarantee
we
that
can only guarantee that we can give you this much and you will take this much.
Yes.
There's the other guarantee as well.
Yes.
There's a guarantee of I am going to put up my plant and finish my plant on the 30th of May.
Yes.
But the 30th of May, I'm ready to generate, take the power. We saw with Lake Turkana wind power that the plant is finished, but Ketraco has not finished putting up the transmission line.
Yeah.
So who was paying for the period where this is generating, but the power is not coming to Suswa?
Of course, it's the government, and maybe through us.
That's the taxpayer now,
It's
the
taxpayer,
consumer.
Yes, it's the consumer, because, and that's actually most of the problems that I have not found any contract by the government that has ended on the date that it had been said, including elections.
No project in Kenya.
Including elections, that we are going to be doing elections for 2 days. It runs we are on the TV screens for about 4 days. And so if it's only the rail, you see the SGR, that was a bit fast. But any other project, I think, I've seen very few projects that the government will always hit the deadline. So now, even on that one, the challenge was that it was a government entity that was given that job. So, Ketraco. And see, if it had been given by a different contractor, just the same as the people who are given the installation, and that was, I think, SECO. SECO is a Southern Engineering. Yeah, company or limited.
Company limited, yes.
Now, if they are the same ones who had been told, if you finish that before you finish the transmission also, it is your problem.
Yeah.
But you see, now you give a different entity that might have interest. Because even those payments, you see, you are supposed to pay those people without generating. And you are the same people signing that Ketraco, you're supposed to do this job.
Yeah.
And you are in government. So why would you not delay purposely? Because you can also get a cut there. You see, that is a challenge.
Yeah.
So it might not have been really a failure or unable to do. It might also have been designed to appear like that.
Engineered to be this way so that some money can be paid.
Yeah, because like now, we always say that if you delay, like in contracts, big contracts, you're normally told that we are supposed to finish this this contract by this time, and then you'll pay us like 200 million. For every month you are going to delay my payment,
there's a penalty.
There's a penalty of like 2 million.
Yep.
I mean, I will tell you, just stay with the money. Stay with the money.
Let me not do the job.
Yeah, you stay the money for like a year, then the penalty is like 100 million.
Yeah.
Because even if you are given that money, and you didn't have anywhere else to take it, it's better they stay with it than they pay the penalty. So it can be designed to be, it can be engineered to be deliberate.
I'm harping on this issue of, because that was a big ticket item. We are going to renegotiate the IPPs and the power will come down because these IPPs are criminals. They have just been here. They want to eat from our government. They are crooks. We have not seen any announcement of a result of negotiations with IPPs. And maybe, as I'm saying, maybe it's actually exposing the fact that it was not going to be an easy conversation as had been touted. Let's talk about even the thermal. You've told us Kipevu 1, Kipevu 2, big thermal generators are owned by KenGen.
Yeah, Kipevu 1, Kipevu 3.
So, Kipevu 3.
Kipevu 2 was owned by Savo Power, operated by Watsila, and they closed. They are contracted in June last year. So those ones are out automatically, without even negotiation. Maybe the negotiation would have been, can we now extend further?
Just hold it.
Yeah.
We have one of the power generating companies out of the picture.
Yes, by design. It was supposed to be
Yes. So what that means is, I'm speaking as a layman,
Yes.
whatever we were paying to them, we no longer pay.
Yes.
Okay. Eric, you see where I'm going with this, don't you?
That was 75 megawatts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, whatever we're paying for this, since their departure, did we notice a reduction in our costs?
Oh, no. We are still at 4.63. Yeah. In fact, it is higher. And I have pointed out, and I want all consumers to know that we are paying 4.63 Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour for fuel cost for the fourth month in a row without any fluctuation. Whether the price of the price of oil has gone higher or lower or whatever, or we have reduction in thermal generation, or we have increased, it has been stuck at 4.63. That should raise some alarm.
An issue.
It's an issue.
Who's the largest thermal generator in terms of contributing to the grid? Is it KenGen?
It's KenGen, of course, because they have several. They had the Embakasi and several others. But there's actually a list. But
so even when you come to diesel powered,
yes.
KenGen is still
there,
the largest.
Yes.
So the renegotiation here we are talking about. Let's go to IPPs.
It's the government to talk to itself. It's the government to talk to itself.
I think we've gotten to the heart of the matter, haven't we?
Bas. If we were to look at, so what should happen? What is it that you say? What should happen to bring the cost of power down? Simply, directly, just telling them, Wananchi, look out for, if this doesn't happen, forget it.
I will point out about two things. One, I have always mentioned, let us stop taxation on power. And I have said we will get...
Stop completely or reduce it?
Completely.
Why?
We will get 13% because it is possible. I mean, there are so many things that... you see, when you reduce taxation or you evade taxation on power, there are other things that people will do with power and you'll still get your tax back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it will increase production. And as a result, production...
It will also
tax.
introduce consumption.
It will introduce more consumption.
Job creation,
you see. So there will be more things to tax.
Mm-hmm.
And that is only 13%. And as I always say, Kenya Power normally gets around, we discuss with them and they are getting around 13 to 16 billion per month. So how much money must the government get from there? I mean, they only get around maybe even 6 billion.
But bear in mind when we talk about Kenya Power,
yes,
it isn't owned by the government.
It is owned by the government, half of it.
No, it is not. The government is a shareholder. When you say a major shareholder, doesn't mean you own it. It just means,
of course.
Yes. And so there is the question of the other partners with the government who, of necessity, are business people who will want to make money from it. So
as long as it's still profitable.
Yes.
That the thing is, can it guarantee profitability? If you reduce tax on power, does that translate to losses to Kenya Power?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Yeah. So that's what we are saying.
So
it's the government to decide.
We, the shareholders, want to see.
Let me tell you one thing. This government, KenGen, is also almost owned by the government, the whole of it. Ketraco is owned by the government.
100%.
Now, Kenya Power, 50.1.
Yes.
Yeah? So now, when one of the three is making more profit, I mean, they are also taxing KenGen, I guess. But you see, it is taxing itself.
They do. But and KenGen always makes a profit.
Yeah.
And it makes a profit.
Always.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is why we are saying, if I was to be asked what needs to be done, and I'm not saying that I be told to do it, because again, that is another job. But I am saying, in terms of if I am told, if you are going to structure these things so that it can be reduced, it will be two things. One, you avoid taxes. And that will reduce 13%.
Okay.
You see, avoiding tax completely, that will be 13%.
Second?
The second one is that you negotiate with the IPPs. Yeah? And that will give only 12%. That will be?
Total 25.
That is 25%. You see how... So we are still far from 33.
Yeah.
Now, this 33, you might now go to the system losses, which is going to reduce 2.65%.
So we are not 27.
We are on 27, isn't it?
So now we simply need 6% more to arrive at 6.
Now, the 6%, you can now only go to Kenya Power and tell them, you guys, you're saying you're making a loss. you will make more loss.
Your
Because
operating
we need
costs are
these
too
6
high.
shillings from you. And we are also saying that it is not complicated because you remember we were at 42% less in 2013. So what was happening during that time? That
So
is basically what I would go back.
We target to getting back there.
Yes.
Let's hope that in the next coming days, we are going to get something from the Energy CS.
It's really my hope.
Ambassador Monica Juma. She's addressing the media this morning, primarily on the matter of fuel prices. But let's wait and see. Dereva, thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Reminding you about what Colgate and Wellboring are doing. They've been to 7 counties: Kisumu, Siaya, Kakamega, Migori, Kwale, Kitui and Homa Bay. They've already done 90 water wells in schools in the 7 counties. They're looking to do some 30 more water wells in various parts of these counties by the end of this year. Go to, Go to Naivas, buy Colgate, and you will be able to be helping in this particular cause, getting people access to water. Very good morning to you. It's 8 a.m. 9. No, it's 8 until Uhuru says, okay, it's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world.
This is
94.4 Spice FM.
The United Democratic Alliance is holding its nominations across the country today. Leaders aligned with Deputy President William Ruto competing for tickets in various political seats in the run-up to the August elections. The exercise, which will traverse across 36 of the total 47 counties, will see close to 5,000 aspirants participate in the nominations. 13 counties will nominate gubernatorial candidates, 18 for the Senate and 28 for female representatives, while 13 constituencies will nominate parliamentary candidates. Deputy President William Ruto urged all aspirants to keep the peace during the exercise. This as the UDA party has stated that it will be issuing regular updates on the ongoing elections in 36 counties in the country today. The first briefing is expected to be held at 9:30 a.m. at Hustlers Center, the party's headquarters in Nairobi. And former NAT Secretary General Wilson Sossion, who is seeking the United Democratic Alliance party ticket for the Bomet Senator's seat, is among aspirants in Bomet County who now wants the party primaries exercise in the region called off. The aspirants raised rigging claims at Tenwek High School just hours after the exercise kicked off on Thursday morning, saying it would undermine the integrity of the primaries. According to Sossion, they have been able to access and secure ballot boxes and marked ballot papers at Tenwek, raising concerns over the credibility of the party primaries in the region. Siaya senatorial aspirant Julius Thomas Okinda has faulted the Orange Party for awarding a nomination certificate to Raila Odinga's brother, Dr. Oburu Oginga. Okinda, who has been campaigning for the seat, said that he knew they would go for nominations that was to be conducted through universal suffrage, but was taken aback when he went to cast his vote only to learn that senatorial seat was not among those being contested for, as the party had already issued a ticket to Raila Odinga's elder brother, Dr. Oburu. Other than Mr. Okinda, another aspirant for the senatorial position is Tony Okoh, who has since resorted to contest as an independent candidate. Now, the Ministry of Petroleum has announced that it will be issuing a comprehensive statement regarding the fuel situation in the country today. The address will be delivered by Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Monica Juma. Comes at a time the country has been hit by a massive shortage of petroleum products. Juma is expected, among other things, to shed light on what might have occasioned the current situation, even as reports indicate that some oil marketing companies might be guilty of hoarding the much sought-after commodity. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged sportsmen and women to continue playing a leading role as ambassadors of unity and peaceful coexistence in the country. The president particularly commended the sporting fraternity for being a unifying factor and force that brings Kenyans together irrespective of ethnic, religious, or political affiliations. The head of state spoke when he commissioned the ultra-modern Ulinzi Sports Complex at Langata Garrison in Nairobi County. Now, the Muslim community in Lamu County has been urged to unite and provide assistance to needy families during the holy month of Ramadan. This was stated by various leaders of social organizations at a ceremony to provide food and clothing to 260 orphans ceremony held every month of Ramadan in the island of Lamu. According to the leaders, the orphans have been going through difficult times, including lack of food, clothing, education, and even medical treatment. And finally, dozens of protesters gathered in Grand Rapids, Michigan, after police released videos related to the fatal shooting of a young black man by a white police officer. One of 4 videos from April 4th incident shows the officer lying on the back of 26-year-old Patrick Lioya as the two scuffled after a traffic stop and then appeared to shoot him on the head. Prior to the shooting, the men appeared to be wrestling on the ground for control of the officer's taser. The officer has not been named. Some 50 to 100 protesters convened in downtown Grand Rapids, a city of around 200,000 people. They carried Black Lives Matter placards and chanted, "No justice, no peace." This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Sasseto. Good morning.
Yep, there's traffic and then there's no traffic. Thika Superhighway is clear all the way from Thika coming towards town up to the point where you get into Muranga Road. Muranga Road is also clear up to Ngara. So Ngara is only busy up to the Globe Cinema roundabout. The rest of the road, very good. Mombasa Road is also clear. Just a slight snarl up at Imara Daima as you turn off into Enterprise Road, but that clears up as well. At Kapiti Road, and this is because of a petrol station. There's a petrol station from South Sea. I think that is what is causing a bit of a snarl up on your way to the airport. As you approach now Stadium Roundabout, there's also a bit of traffic there. Langata Road is clearing up as you approach the T-Mall Junction. And the other areas are within CBD, Kenyatta Avenue, not so busy. Uhuru Highway, not so bad. Ngong Road, not so bad. I think the situation is just basically looking good. Do you have fuel? Mafuta iko wapi? That's all we need to know. The CS for Energy, who's also the acting CS for Petroleum and Mining, Ambassador Monica Juma, is going to be addressing this matter in the coming hour. We'll be discussing this shortly. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to
7
start
up to
your
9,
day.
it's Eric and CT. Ndu is away for a couple of days, taking a break. She will be back next week, hopefully. CT has the day's proverb.
Yes, I do. When the bee comes to your house, let her drink beer. You may want to visit the bee's house one day.
It's true. Comes to you, give it something. You know you need something from it.
You do.
In a couple of days.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So,
be hospitable, be welcoming.
prepare the path for reciprocity.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. And also, this is the one that Ndu says is Monday, Thursday.
Monday.
Whatever.
The Thursday before the Friday.
The Thursday before the Friday.
Yes.
What's the plan for Easter? How about a wonderful brunch with a delightful selection of dishes prepared by the executive chef Aris and his team of culinary experts, complimentary pool access to the big outdoor pool to cool off in this Nairobi heat. Where is this? At the Movenpick Hotel and Residences, Nairobi, offering you a 5-star experience this Easter from only 4,500 shillings. Or 5,500 per person. This includes the gin cocktails at $22.50 for kids between 6 and 12 years, complimentary for 5 and belows. This Easter, basically, the place to be And the place to go is the Movenpick Hotel and Residences in Nairobi. This is in Westlands. Go there. They have a wonderful Easter program laid out for you. You have access to the outdoor pool. You have access to the big outdoors. You have access to the rotating restaurant. You have access to the residences as well. And the executive chef, Aris, and his team have done some good job coming up with an Easter menu. It's a place to go. So now it's also Monday, Thursday. Monday, Thursday is the day that they arrested Jesus, so that...
as you put it, Kamata Kamata.
Kamata Kamata Thursdays. And then tomorrow, crucify the man. Yes? I think we are playing as a country, we are actually already doing Easter drama.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And
so we have arrested Jesus, and his name is Jean-Christian Bagiron, who has been walking around here claiming to be the Messiah as the Ruby's Energy Group MD. And the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and what are the others?
It is Pharisees, Sadducees.
Yes. They have determined that this is the man to blame. This whole problem that we are seeing in the country.
This man is holding fuel.
Because of fuel shortage in petrol stations, and you go there, blah, 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 blah. It is because of this one man, Ruby's MD. And what we want to do is we want to send him away.
While doing so, sending a message also
to everybody, ili iwe funzo
kwa watu wenye tabia mbovu kama huyu. Yes, that we will not put up with this.
Yes,
surely fuel shortage in the entire country, seemingly being blamed on one individual who heads one institution.
Yes,
one of the many that exist in this country.
This has been there for a couple of weeks.
It has.
All right. Since the 14th of March, the actual March, since the 14th of March, when the new fuel prices were introduced, coming to 15th of March, going towards the end of March, things were okay. And then from the last week of March into April, now into this 14th day of March, of April. We have seen issues happening. They started across the country, especially in Western Kenya. And we had the PS for Petroleum here who told us, look, so the big players are the ones who have the capacity to import petroleum into the country. And the big players here, we call them multinationals, right? The big ones. Number one market share in the country is Vivo Energy, which is operating under Shell. Then we have Total. We have Rubis, right? We have Ola. Those are the multinationals. Then we have the Kenyan brands, for example, Galana, which is operating as Delta petrol stations, and the others. Big, they have a number of petrol stations, more than 10, 20 petrol stations in the country, big players. And then we've got the medium and to small players. Medium and small players then get their supplies from those who have imported.
They do.
Those who have imported also have their petrol stations.
They do.
Now, X number of years ago, there was a huge incidence of adulteration of fuel and negative rap coming, and that's why these big boys pulled out, especially of Western Kenya, and they stopped investing there. And with the reforms in the oil industry, we saw now investment by the smaller players, the Kenyan independents, in those areas. Kenyan brands.
We actually saw them increasing.
Increasing. So when you go to very many parts of west of the country, you'll find that the petrol stations are those Kenyan brands.
Yes.
And not the big ones. And those are the ones that started immediately suffering from lack of fuel at their pumps because they could not buy from the big boy. Why is the big boy not selling it to them? Because the big boy wants cash. Why does the big boy want cash? Because the big boy has no cash. The big boy has not received cash.
The big boy needs cash.
Needs cash. Has not received cash from the bigger boy, who's the government. So government has not basically passed on the 20 shillings per litre that it has pledged to pass on to the oil marketing companies. There's a delay in that, and that has caused this whole issue that spiraled.
And the delay didn't begin yesterday.
It did not.
Because it is, if you talk and ask and seek for clarity, you'll find it's cumulative. The government seems to be paying in bits and pieces. And what we have is a situation where the oil marketers are facing a cash crunch. Their own liquidity is at risk, which means the operations are at risk.
If you think about, let's say a big boy, pick any of these big boys that we've just mentioned. Let's just give them a volume of 100 million liters of fuel per month.
For purposes of discussion.
For purposes of discussion.
Yes.
You're supposed to be receiving 20 bob per liter.
Yes.
Of every fuel you sell at the pump from the government.
Yes.
100 million times 20?
2 billion.
2 billion shillings.
Yes.
At the end of the month, that's 2 billion shillings that you should have been receiving, you have not received. And yet, you are thinking about bringing the next.
And you have to pay cash.
You have to pay cash to whoever you're buying from.
Yes.
You have to pay cash to carry.
Yes.
When you land it at the port.
Oh, they're waiting for you.
They're waiting for you. They want their tax upfront.
Yes.
And then you're told, do not sell at a profit. We shall cover the profit.
Yes. And secondly, then we essentially were telling you at what price you should sell it.
And
it's controlled.
We shall sell it at this price.
Yes.
And then you don't have operating cash.
Yes.
Issue compounding to the place where we are now. The next thing is IPRA now is telling us that they have done some study and some monitoring of what's happening. Is there fuel at the Kenya pipeline depots?
Yes, there
is. Are these companies going to take fuel from the depots? Yes, they are. Where is the fuel ending up? The IPRA says, we have noticed that not all the fuel that's coming out of the depot is ending up in our petrol stations in the country. Some of it is going into transit markets. And this is where our issue starts coming in. Because this is wrong. Now, look on the other side and ask these oil marketing companies. Have you been selling fuel in the neighboring countries?
Yes.
Have you increased the amount of fuel that you're selling to neighboring countries? Well, some of them will not tell you openly, but yes, they have.
They most certainly have.
Why? Business.
They're businessmen and women. They're business people. That's their business. If you have a market where you can sell your product profitably, that is where you will go.
And you walk home with cash.
Yes, which you are not getting in this very country where you've nestled your business and where you have your storage capacity. But so if that fuel is in storage and you're not selling it, you're still at a loss. Because that is like money sitting and not doing anything for you. But if you sell it, then the money becomes mobile.
It's like having two markets. So you're a trader, you sell vegetables at Wakulima market, and you also sell vegetables at farmers' retail market.
Yes.
The other one, it's called what?
Or you have an arrangement where you deliver vegetables to individuals.
Yes.
Yes. These are all outlets for your product.
So if in one market you are selling cash, and in the other market you are selling on credit, and you don't know, it's an open-ended credit. You don't know whether it's 30 days or it's 90 days, whether it's 120 days.
And you are never sure they're going to get it in full.
You're going to get paid in full. Where are you going to take your product?
You're going to take it to where you're paid in cash. It makes very simple. It's very basic, very, very simple logic. But the question that I think arises from this situation, which is not very difficult to understand, is why is the government, because it's the government, allowing the citizens to go through these problems? Because it is unnecessary. The issue of fuel shortages is not new on the globe. Other countries have similar problems.
Yes.
But they're transparent about it. Like Australia will tell you, them they have 50 days of fuel still. They're working on it. Prices are going up. These things that we experience in Kenya, we are not the only ones experiencing it.
We are not.
We understand it. But what
shortage at the pump.
Yes, that is the point. This is what is unique in our case.
Actually, it's also not. Because in the UK just the other day, earlier this year, they had shortage of fuel at the pumps.
Yes, they did.
And their problem was because the trucks are not delivering fuel at the stations.
And why were they not delivering?
Because they don't have drivers.
Yes, and why don't they have drivers?
Because of Brexit.
Precisely.
So these oil tankers that we see going to the petrol stations, at some point in the UK earlier this year, there was an issue with the drivers, shortage of drivers, so not able to deliver fuel at the petrol stations. So we saw
shortage of
queues.
who? Drivers.
Yes.
Not shortage of lorries, not shortage
money.
of fuel, not money, drivers.
Yes.
A unique problem. Yes.
And it was a big issue. It was addressed quite fast on how to expedite the licensing of drivers, how to get the drivers from, how to sort it out.
To get the fuel moving to where it's supposed to get to.
Yes.
Yes.
In our country, What we are seeing is a government that's just sitting back there and saying, but that one is because of the oil marketing companies. That one is because of some unscrupulous cartels in the oil marketing company. And not saying this is what we are doing to make sure that there is fuel tomorrow.
You know, what compounds this matter even further is the trust deficit. Because it's government speaking, one pauses and asks if what you're hearing is what is really happening. Because everything that we know about this particular business, the people who have the last say on it is the government. They can either decide and determine to make it easy, make it available, or they can determine to put us in this situation that we are in. It is them. It's not the oil marketers. You can blame the oil marketers all you want. But it is not. These are business people. Why would they not want to sell their fuel?
And they've imported it anyway.
Yes, it's already in the country.
You bring fuel and then you don't sell it.
Surely.
You hoard it so that you...
No, you spend money, a lot of money to bring the fuel and then you don't sell it. Does that make sense to you really?
Not quite. No. Not quite. Let's hear from Muga, who's calling in from Kahawa West. Muga, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Is it Kahawa West or Kahawa Sukari?
Kahawa Sukari.
Sukari, okay.
Yeah.
Muga, when you look at this situation, who bears responsibility for the fuel crisis?
I think, Eric, we are in a situation where, everything is becoming politics, which is quite unfortunate. When people cannot, tell the truth, even when it's so clear, because, when the oil prices started to rise, and the government ordered to, keep the dollar, stable by, taming inflation and all those things, and they know, the biggest control here is the oil prices. Yeah? They came up with this subsidy. So if you don't pay the oil marketers, how do you expect them to run their business? And there's another market where they're getting paid.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense, for people to just say, we are out of control a bit on this item and, come out to the public and, give them the truth, as opposed, to just picking up on just a few individuals. It's quite unfortunate that, the government is doing this. And I think it's not the first time that we are seeing this. I think even when we have seen, corruption running all over, we've seen the government sort of blaming, the bank, whereas we know, the money is being processed by central bank. If miss is sitting at central bank. But the bank always will stop elsewhere. So I think this is a trend that has to stop. And the public have to come out and, tell the government we understand what is happening. And they need to come out and say, be honest and say, we are out of control on 1, 2, 3 items.
Yep.
So the back and the blame is at the Ministry of Energy and Finance for this matter.
Okay. Thank you very much, Muigai. Thank you for that contribution. Indeed, like Muigai is saying, look, the buck stops somewhere, and this is government. The National Treasury, the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining, that's responsible for this. Those are the ones that should come out and say, this is exactly what's happening. Now, there's been also the other question of how much money has actually been raised through the Petroleum Development Levy since it was first introduced. And we know between the point of introduction of the Petroleum Development Levy and the point of first use of Petroleum Development Levy, there was about 1.5 years of just collecting 5 shillings per litre every time there is fuel being sold in the country.
Yes.
How much was in that kitty? How much has been consumed? Can we say that we really have run out of that money?
Has there been an openness about it?
Has there been openness
Every
about
once in a while, you'd see a signage that this road was constructing using the fuel levy money, blah, blah, blah. And you're delighted.
Yes.
It's a nice road.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's a different levy.
Yes.
There's a road maintenance levy, which comes in now from fuel.
Yes.
And there's a Petroleum Development Levy, whose sole purpose is this.
And
the subsidy.
And here I was thinking it's the same thing.
It is not. The 5 shillings Petroleum Development Levy was created for such, to cushion the market against shocks, to be the subsidy.
So essentially, we have already paid for the money that the government ought to be giving the marketers.
And it is not a subsidy. It is a levy that has already been paid. It's a contribution by taxpayers.
So essentially,
it's a tax.
We've paid for it.
Yes.
So why are they not paying for it? Why are they not giving the marketers?
Who knows? James in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing
How
today?
are you? I'm good. And you guys, how are you good?
We're well. Uko na mafuta?
Iko kidogo tutangana tu.
That's the spirit.
Anyway, the thing is again, there's a caller over here, I think it's from Mombasa, who keeps saying an accident is a culmination of events. It is not an event.
True.
It is a collection of events. Same thing here. We are going to talk about, now everybody has become an expert on fuel subsidies and all these things. The bottom line is whatever prices we have in Kenya right now are artificial. And I think this is just where you let market rule itself, going to the right places. The subsidy, I think, was a short-term measure that was working before crude oil prices in the world went haywire. I don't think it is sustainable. So, fine. If you remove the subsidy, price will go to 160, 170. That's tough, but that's the reality. We'd rather live in a reality, in a tough reality, than live in this honeymoon that we are now finding ourselves. You have to, if you're not going to queue for fuel, map your way in which you avoid roads with petrol stations, because that's where the traffic is, because everyone is trying to get in. So let's bite the bullet, get 160 and all that. Situation comes down. We think of a long-term solution.
We'll move on.
Yes, and government has never been very good in doing many things, certainly not in doing business. So I think we just get the government out of this thing.
Allow the market forces to dictate the market.
Yes, market forces dictate, and market forces are never wrong most of the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, James. Zachary Nakuru, good morning.
Oh, good morning, people.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I miss the voice of the other gender.
Yeah,
Where
the
is
representative
she?
of the other gender has traveled.
Okay.
Taking a couple of days off.
Okay. Oh, maybe she'd be well. Now, let me see this, Mr. Eric. And
How is the
if
fuel
you are
situation
thinking-
in Nakuru, as you see?
Oh my God! Let me tell you, I called to say that these guys who have been telling us that the man has evolved, that he used to be a hunter and gatherer, and those things went. They never went. Let me tell you, we are still hunters and gatherers. If you saw the men with very big berries holding jerry cans, they were going around like now sniffing where is oil, that is the time that I came to know that we have not really changed. We have not evolved that much, We can still be hunters and gatherers, and that is where this government is taking us. And I join that guy who has just called, the immediate previous caller, who said that if the government is unable to control it has failed in its part, playing its part lightly in the oil, whatever issue, let it exit and leave the market forces to determine what's the price, And let me say this, as the shortage hits, most of these guys who are relying on oil are normally the border guys, And most of them I talked to yesterday told me, we have not worked for about 4 days, Hello?
Yep.
And they were telling me, we have not worked for 4 days and we need money to provide for ourselves, for our family, to take to those people who have given us these borders. And now the next option. They may start asking for you change.
Who bears responsibility here, Zachary?
It's the government. And they let them not come to blindfold us, trying to tell, you can see we are now starting to say this guy who is
to deport someone.
I mean, the question I asked myself when I saw that report yesterday, late in the evening, was this guy had he some wells, big wells in his house where he's staying? Like there is some guys were taking money in sacks. Now this one took petrol to his house or to his bedroom. I don't understand this, This is joking, actually.
Thank you, Zachary.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Same, guys.
Brian in Meru, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning to you, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. It's not Brian. The name is Daniel.
It's Daniel.
Yes.
Okay. I think Ednah was thinking of a Brian.
No, it's okay. She said
All right.
The signal was not clear at the time.
Okay. Daniel, so how is the situation like in Meru?
It's the same thing we can see countrywide, only that there's a bit of madness in some areas. There's a bit of order in other areas. I myself lined up this morning for fuel in a small petrol station here we have in Meru called LR. And it just took us about an hour to go through the line and you get your fuel. And the reason I'm calling this morning is actually not about the chaos that we are seeing. It's actually to address you guys at the studio, because I think we need a little bit more balance in the discussion. The discussion throughout the week has been, exhaustively anti-government. Even when, it is clear that there's an aspect of government failure, but there is also an aspect of greed that is not being addressed on the part of the oil marketers.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when COVID happened and the price of fuel across the world actually fell down to zero. Did our fuel go down to zero? The excuse at the time by oil marketers is that they had already imported their fuel and they're going to charge us for the fuel at the price at which they imported that. The price stayed low for a period of time, but our prices in Kenya remained high, and people started blaming the government because of the levies that it's putting on the fuel at the time. But we did not see a huge fall in market prices at the time, because the cost at which the oil marketers were telling us that they imported the fuel at was still high. So when you tax it, it still goes up. I'm not here to defend the government, but I'm asking you and your panelists to be a bit more, fair, balanced. Do not
in this particular
about,
case. In this particular case, Daniel.
Yes.
Where do you see the greed of the oil marketing companies?
I see the greed in terms of sales volumes that these people are doing. That's something that we have completely ignored. I'd like the media to actually do a bit of research. Tell us, these guys, in normal times, when you go to your petrol station and you fuel 200 bob, 500 bob, 100 shillings, and so on, how much do they sell in a week? And then compute the same at this time that we've had this artificial shortage and see how much has Total sold, how much has Rubis, how much has DRLR here, how much have they sold per volume. And then you'll be able to see that this time that we've had this shortage, they've probably been able to sell more per volume.
From your
as compared to
observation,
normal time.
Are they selling more or less?
They're selling more. That is definitely more.
Why is there a shortage?
There is no shortage. You see, there is no shortage. Even
long queues.
The government acknowledges, the companies acknowledge there is no shortage. There is fuel. But the problem is now delivering fuel, because there's an agreement that they'd like the government to have. There's this payment or a subsidy they want to be paid. That is an agreement they need to have with the government. I agree. But at the same time, they need, as businessmen and as businessmen who are responsible to the citizens, they need to ensure that the product continues being delivered to the customer. Because at the end of the day, the customer is suffering because of bickering between the government and these guys.
All right, fair point, Daniel.
Yes, but please, in all of your conversations, I kindly ask that you try to make them a bit more balanced, because across the week, over time, you get this feeling. I'm not speaking for the government. I have no connection to the government, but just try to get both sides of the story, at least so that your viewers can be, a bit more informed.
Asante. We've actually had the government in the studio. We haven't had the oil marketing companies to give their side of their story yet.
Get them both in there. At the same time.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Have a lovely day.
You too, guys. You too.
Asante sana. 26 minutes to 10. This is the conversation we're having. We can see there's a crisis of sorts at the pumps. And who bears responsibility for the fuel crisis in the country? That's the question we are asking. We want to hear from you. 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Who bears responsibility for the crisis that we're seeing at the pumps? Reminding you about Showmax for as low as 760 shillings a month. Season 2 of Crime and Justice about to kick off soon. Are you ready to watch it? So season 1 launched last year in February. It was widely acclaimed. Topped the charts on Showmax as the most viewed show on Showmax for 9 straight weeks, and also won awards. Was nominated for the Kalasha Awards. It had been nominated for Best TV Drama, Best Lead Actor, Best Lead Actress. It won in Best Lead Actress, which was Sarah Hassan, who plays Detective McKenna, and Alfred Munya, who plays as Detective Silas, had been nominated for Best Lead Actor. Season 2 is coming up.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Brought to you by Colgate.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
The Easter weekend is finally here. If you are looking for a good way to relax and unwind without leaving the city, join me, Olivia Otieno, on 00 Direct this Saturday from 10 a.m. and find out more about the Movenpick Hotel and Residences and their plans to give you an extraordinary weekend and how you can get a discount courtesy of SpiceFM.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
So what's happening? Nairobi currently it's 21 degrees Celsius. The temperature is going to rise to 26 and then drop later to 16. Mostly cloudy day. Mombasa, expect some light rains today at 32 and lows of 26. Similar thing happening in Malindi today. Highs of 32, lows of 27, some light rains. Nyeri is going to experience some light rain as well. Highs of 25 and lows of 15. Nakuru City, sunny day, 27 highs, lows of 15. Kisumu City, sunny day, highs of 30, lows of 20. Kakamega Town, highs of 27 and lows of 15. And also Eldoret, highs of 30 and lows of 18. Kampala City, 26 highs and lows of 19 and sunny day. Lagos, Nigeria, partly sunny day at 32 and lows of 25. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, highs of 30 and lows of 24 with some rain showers. Kinshasa, sunny day at 33 and lows of 23. Johannesburg, sunny day at 21 and lows of 12. China, Beijing is getting into the evening and highs of 20, lows of 8. It's a sunny afternoon into the evening in Beijing, China. London, sunny morning, 10 degrees currently, going to rise to 20 and lows of 9. Paris is sunny, highs of 22 and lows of 8. New York, clear skies, 27 will be the high and lows of 10. Imagine there's nothing much to report. Mombasa Road is not looking bad at all. Only slight issues at General Motors as you come towards that new interchange that links you into Enterprise Road. So because of that slight confusion that's there, that interchange, there's a slight delay. But then the one road that has issues is Enterprise Road. As you come into South B, as you head towards Lusaka Road, also some issues there. Uhuru Highway, not looking bad at all. Only issue is Mombasa Road into Langata Road and Lusaka Road. That's Nyayo Stadium roundabout. There's a slight delay as you head there. Langata Road is clear. Ngong Road is clear. Thika Road has been fantastic today. Thika Road is all clear. The only issue is at the Globe Cinema roundabout, but the rest of the roads are looking all good, including Landis Road and Jogoo Road.
Business news on SpiceFM.
Good morning. I am Stephanie Wangari. The government has ordered the deportation of Ruby's Kenya Chief Executive Officer Jean Bergeron. Ruby's is under investigation for malpractices that plunged the country into a fuel crisis. Bergeron is accused of hoarding fuel and exporting the commodity to fuel markets. Multiple Ministry of Petroleum and mining sources confirmed his deportation had been cancelled and that he's been ordered out of the country. Petrol prices are expected to increase to the highest level in Kenya's history unless the state subsidizes the rising crude oil costs. Estimates from the oil marketers indicate that fuel prices could increase by 40 shillings a litre in the absence of a subsidy, pushing the cost of petrol and diesel to 130 shillings for each in Nairobi. But the state could offer a partial subsidy similar to last month to ease the jump in fuel prices. Kenya Airways customers lost 4.48 billion shillings last year after they failed to show up for their flights, leaving them with expired tickets. The value of the expired tickets have been disclosed in the airline's latest annual report. KQ, as the carrier is known by its international code, books revenue from ticket sales whether customers fly or leave the tickets to expire. Clients who cancel their flights can get credit, representing a discount on the cost of the ticket, which they can use within 1 year. Lockdowns and travel restrictions have been a major reason many people have missed or snubbed their flights since the COVID-19 outbreak in early 2020. That's your business news. I am Stephanie Wangari.
Business news, keeping you up to date on all your money matters.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Okay,
Nairobi.
so the conversation continues. 19 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. We want to hear from you. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. We have a fuel issue in the country. We're calling it a fuel crisis, but we're asking who bears responsibility for the fuel crisis. The managing director of Ruby's Energy Group, Jean-Christian Bergeron, has been ordered out of the country and has been fingered as the man who is responsible for much of the problem. That is one. Even if we say the organization that he represents bears responsibility, does it bear the ultimate responsibility? Is this it? Shall we say, okay, yeah.
Are they the single marketer who supply fuel to all the stations that we have in the country?
Question.
If they are, then definitely they're the ones responsible.
Question.
Yes.
Question. Who bears the ultimate responsibility? Is it EPRA as well, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority? And what's their responsibility in this? I take it even to the National Assembly in terms of taxation. They approve taxation.
They do.
When we see that there's such high taxation on fuel, what role does Parliament play? When we see, for example, the introduction of the Petroleum Development Levy, but there's no proper regulation on how this levy is managed, how this levy is to be accessed, or ring-fencing this levy such that this money cannot be used for something else. For example, doing what maybe Dereba was insinuating, cushioning Kenyans against rising electricity prices. Do we know for sure that this money
What is this money actually intended for?
For this?
Precisely. So when people talk about a subsidy, it is not a subsidy. Not really. It is not a subsidy.
We've put money in a kitty for a rainy day.
We have paid, the taxpayer has paid for this money which is in that kitty.
Yes.
Subsidy is when the government pays from its coffers. That's what a subsidy is.
The government is not taxpayer.
No, government receives our taxes.
Okay. So government basically redirects money from another item into something, and like we're seeing now with the fertilizer subsidy.
Yes. So, whenever you hear the word subsidy, what it means is this. The government has actually either reduced whatever taxation it had on that item, or it has removed it completely.
Yep.
That's a subsidy. But it is finding ways of paying for it. But in this case, this one has been paid for.
Yeah.
Because there's a tax on it.
By the consumer.
By the consumer, yes. Ultimately, when you talk about fuel, everybody pays. You may think you need a vehicle. You don't. Everybody pays for it. Because you buy goods. Those goods are moved by vehicles that use fuel.
Yes.
They are produced by factories that use fuel to conduct their business. And all the cumulative costs is borne by the product that you buy. So you, the consumer, you end up carrying that entire burden. Whether you know it or not, that's what you do. It is you who carries that burden. So as far as we're concerned, we, the hapless citizen, we've done our bit. We've paid our tax.
We are subsidizing ourselves.
Precisely. So why is it that there is an issue?
Where is the money not going there?
Yes.
Maina in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, SpiceFM.
Morning to you. How are you doing?
Salama sana. I just have a small contribution about the oil crisis that we are facing. Huh?
Yes.
You see that fund that you're mentioning, the one we all contribute to when we fuel at the pump?
Yes.
That is meant to subsidize the foreseeable or unforeseeable shortages and spikes in prices and so on and so forth. Huh?
Yes.
That fund is currently depleted and it hasn't done its work. So I think it's just
when we say depleted, Maina, are we saying that the fund has gone to do the job that it was supposed to do, but it was not enough, so we run out of it?
No, it was misappropriated. You see, the government has funds that it collects from the pump, puts it in account, and the idea is to use that money when we are in a crisis like we are in right now.
Yes.
However, the crisis doesn't hit for a while, and the government is like, hii pesa imekaa tu hapa. You know, the same way you have some savings, and then you're like, hii pesa inaweza saidia mahali.
Nani Easter.
Nani Easter. So, the money is siphoned into a different direction, not knowing that just when you have used the money for another purpose, the crisis hits.
Yeah.
But now, the government, being who it is, and we all know how it acts, it's very reactionary and very euphoric in handling crises in the country. So, you know, like in the times of the Bible when Pontius, the Pilate, he was like, sasa hapa, there's going to be an uprising. What do we do? So he stands before the people and asks, shall I give you this man Jesus? Because you're all paying for his blood. So to appease the masses, he gave them, a scapegoat. So it's the same thing. Government is always looking for a scapegoat now to make sure that people are a bit quiet and a bit controlled in their emotions. But it's very reactionary. It's not strategic at all. Instead of covering for their failures and shortcomings, they resort to these cheap gimmicks of, sing to be seen. Just like when Baba's chopper was stoned, they put some boys in behind bars.
They arrested
then
boys.
They freed them.
Yeah.
Then they freed them yesterday with no evidence.
Yeah.
That's how government typically operates. When there's a situation, they quickly act to seem to be acting. And then after 3 days, there is no more emotion. People are beat appeased because the government has to be acting. Then, but it's not strategic. It's very euphoric and reactionary.
So you think the Ruby's guy is just a fall guy?
It's just a scapegoat. It's just a soft target. He's Jesus.
It's Easter.
He's been given to the masses. It's Easter. He's our Jesus for this Easter. So that we can keep quiet for fuel, for queuing for 3 hours to get 1,000 bob of diesel,
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, really, really bad.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Maina. Asante, have a good day. 0719-012-600. Who bears responsibility for the fuel crisis in the country? Is it the oil marketing companies? Is it the Petroleum Ministry? Is it the Treasury? Is it IPRA? Is it Parliament? Is it consumers? Is it Ukraine? Is it Putin? Who is it that bears responsibility for what we're witnessing? Because there's a fuel crisis. I mean, people are spending long hours queuing. And in fact, somebody made a comment that it clearly appears that the oil marketing companies or petrol stations, individual petrol stations, have deals with matatus and buses. Because matatus and buses have not acted like they're witnessing a shortage of fuel. If matatus and buses were part of what is queuing at the petrol stations, meaning that there would be no matatus and buses on the roads.
Would have been seeing many more people on the roads walking.
Yes. We don't have a transport crisis, luckily, because matatus and buses have access to the fuel. Because of the kind of volumes maybe that they move at a petrol station. The petrol station actually thinks, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure that I have set aside some volume
for these people.
Because they come to fuel at night, they park their vehicles here. These are the guys who are drivers of my volumes. I am going to make sure that my primary client is sorted. So matatus and buses,
everybody else can follow.
Everybody else can follow. If we didn't have orderliness in terms of these guys having access to fuel, would be having a transport crisis in addition to what
we don't have a transport crisis.
We don't. So what exactly is going on? And we asked ourselves this question earlier, CT. What exactly is happening? Because really, like you've said, this is something that the government noticed from the very beginning. They have been having conversations with the oil marketing companies. They have been trying to offer assurances. It's not, if we pick the initial figure that we immediately had at the end of March, that the government owes oil marketing companies something to the tune of 39 billion shillings, they could have worked out a plan.
They could have.
To make sure that they clear the 39 billion shillings arrears pretty fast.
Yes.
And make sure that there is cash flow with oil marketing companies. This appears not to have happened. So what's going on?
You know the reason why this discussion often veers in the direction, the gentleman who called it Daniel, and why it is, he has a point in what he's saying, if you listen to him. You see, in the absence of details of how it is, the monies that are collected for this very purpose, the amounts and how they're put to use, if there isn't a transparency in that, then what happens is people are then set loose to guess and to figure out and to let the imagination fly in all sorts of directions. Because there is money that is collected. So you were going to ask, okay, so did we spend all the money that was collected and we still owed? And if then, how much did we collect? Simple question. So how much did we spend? You see, all these things, whenever they are asked, you never really get a direct response. And yet a direct response would solve the problem very simply. Now, when you have, I'm starting with what I said earlier on, a trust deficit with your government, with our government, with my government, the problem is I am not going to look at a positive understanding of a situation. I'm going to look at the worst case scenario. That's where I start from. And then wait to be brought back, meaning guilty until proven innocent. I am going to try and find ways of explaining a situation that may be very simple and which the government could have explained to me in a much simpler way, and I would have said, oh, so this is what's happening. When you allow people to guess for this length of time, even when you come and lay down an explanation, you see, you're laying an explanation with the minds that have already been formed.
Yep.
So you're hitting your head against a wall, which need not have been there had they come out right from the onset and said, folks, this is what is happening.
Own the conversation. Own your story.
Own it and take charge of it. But now, you've given time for everybody to take charge of it, and then you want to come in. The believability factor is much reduced. Even when you say what you know to be true, the issue is you are not going to find many takers for it. They're going to say, they just justify this.
It's just
and it may very well be the truth. Yes.
You know, something else that's also happening here is for every liter of super petrol and of diesel, there's also another levy. and it's called the fuel adulteration levy.
Mm.
Actually, it's higher for kerosene. So what the idea here is, in order to combat adulteration of fuel, which was happening by people going to buy kerosene and mixing with your petrol, so they sell you volumes at higher margins.
Yes.
The government came up with that levy,
and it's the cost that you pay for at the pump.
Yes. The whole idea is to discourage adulteration. Look at the photos and the images that are coming from across the country. People are going to petrol stations with jerry cans, with 20-liter mitungis, and buying and queuing to buy. And then there are photos of people on the roadside selling fuel in smaller 1 liter, 2 liter vibuyus.
Yes.
What do you think is happening, if not adulteration?
It is adulteration. It is.
How much will people go and also buy kerosene so that they can jazilia here and so that they can sell you a liter of petrol at 200 bob because you're desperate and you're on the road and you've stalled?
You know, there's we are saying, Eric, that there are 3 levies here. Not 1, not 2. Here I was thinking it was 1.
There are several levies.
Now, all these levies mean the moment fuel is consumed, you've paid.
Yes.
So it's not as though you have a choice. And even if you don't have a vehicle, you are still paying for it.
You are.
Yes. So, is it not fair to ask, with all these monies coming in for all these things, the understanding is that it's supposed to cater for eventualities such as the one that we are experiencing right now.
Yes.
So, can we balance the accounts and can we know what it is that we've got, what we had, what we've spent, and what the deficit is, what needs to be done?
One way of making sure that we have clear accountability and transparency into this fund is by having a regulation that ring fences this fund. That no money shall be withdrawn from this fund if it's not going into this specific purpose, which is cushioning the consumer by paying for either the oil marketers' margins or whatever else. That money shall not get out. Right now, we don't have that. And Parliament is still in session for the next couple of days. Parliament will be debating the finance bill before Parliament, that's before them now. This is about time for them to actually pick up this conversation. When they had the conversation about, why are we seeing oil prices going up? Why are we seeing cost of power going up? Remember, they summoned the committee that's chaired by the Homo Bay Woman Rep.
They did.
They summoned APRA. They summoned the National Treasury.
They always
summoned people.
They always do.
And they asked, where is this money?
They always
Where is
ask.
this money? And it was clear to them, the members of Parliament, that we don't have regulations that are supposed to be in place, supposed to have been enacted to say this Petroleum Development Levy is ring-fenced. It is protected. That you cannot dip your hand into this kitty to finance anything else but the intended purpose. Parliament knows this. Parliament has not passed these regulations, and Parliament is to blame. The Petroleum Ministry, the regulation should come from the Petroleum Ministry to Parliament to pass it. They both know they haven't done it, and they're all quiet. And that's why I come back and say, who bears responsibility? I include members of the National Assembly into this. Because if they don't do that, we shall be talking about, subsidy, ilikuliwa, ilienda wapi,
But you see, Eric, the lie begins there. It is not a subsidy in the way that they're saying it. It is being stated as though it is the government removing money from its coffers to pay for this thing. It is not.
It's not.
It is money that has already been taxed from the consumer, and it's the money that we're saying ought to be used for this. So as you correctly put it, the citizenry are subsidizing themselves.
Yes. It's a consumer who's basically bearing the cost of everything here. Anyway, we are waiting to hear what the Energy CS Ambassador Monica Juma, who's also now the acting Petroleum and Mining CS, what she'll tell us, because this is a conversation that she has called a press conference. She's going to address this issue. We want to hear what exactly she is going to talk about. Let's conclude today's conversation reminding you about what Colgate is doing around the country. So, for the past 4 years, Colgate has provided 90 water wells at schools in 7 counties: Kisumu, Siaya, Kakamega, Migori, Kwale, Kitui and Homa Bay, working with Well Boring, a UK non-governmental organisation. This partnership has benefited approximately 120,000 people. Due to the ongoing severity of the water challenge across rural communities, Colgate wants to donate a further 30 water wells this year to benefit thousands of pupils, their teachers, their families and their communities by creating access to clean drinking water. What you're supposed to do is go buy Colgate for your own smile. And as you do that at Naivas, part of the money will go towards this initiative to sink 30 more wells by the end of this year. Thank you very much. Make sure you do that. So, today's proverb.
When the bee comes to your house, let her drink beer. You may want to visit the bee's house one day.
If it comes, let it drink beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that you yourself may want to visit this very same bee one day.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. We'll be here tomorrow. It's Good Friday. We'll be here from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. with more conversations. Make sure you tune in wherever you are or wherever you will be. If you're traveling, all the best with fuel, with everything. All the best. Have a happy Easter, but we'll be here 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now until 11, it's some good music, and then 11 to 2 p.m. it's Sugar and Spice, Yolanda and DJ Absolute. Thereafter, Quatch. Have a lovely day. 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newsroom. Dennis Asseto. The United Democratic Alliance kicked off party primary and assurance to all aspirants that the